Badlands. Explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
Mr. Vice President, I'm going off script again, I know, but I just want to personally thank you. We've been through some stuff. We've gone through some of the most complex military operations this country's ever conducted, and your steady hand and your leadership during those was a great source of strength for me. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your character. Thank you for your selfless service. Thank you for commitment. Thank you for being a mentor to me, Mr. Vice President.
It's called the swamp. And you know what happened? And you know what I did? A big favor. I caught the swamp. I caught them all. Let's see what happens. Nobody else could have done that but me. I caught all of this corruption that was going on, and nobody else could have done it. Did I get that one right? Every 4 years, we gather on these steps to carry out the orderly and peaceful transfer of power. Today's ceremony, however, has very special meaning, because today we are not merely transferring power from one administration to another, but we are transferring power from Washington, D.C., and giving it back to you, the people. For too long, a small group in our nation's capital has reaped the rewards of government, while the people have borne the cost. Washington flourished, but the people did not share in its wealth. This American carnage stops right here and stops right now. The forgotten men and women of our country will be forgotten no longer. From this day forward, a new vision will govern our land. From this day forward, it's going to be only America first.
This is a president of the United States who is a danger to the republic.
America first.
He knows he's an illegitimate president.
The oath of office I take today is an oath of allegiance to all Americans.
The great Trump recovery.
America will never be a socialist country. I will fight for you with every breath in my body.
Russia, Russian, pro-Russian, Russian, Russia, Russian, 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 the Russians. Russia,
Russia, Russia.
And I will never, ever let you down.
A dangerous virus is spreading rapidly in China, and U.S. officials are very worried that it could come here.
This is really the worst attack we've ever had. This is worse than Pearl Harbor. This is worse than the World Trade Center. There's never been an attack like this. The time for empty talk is over. Now arrives the hour of action. What they're doing is using COVID to steal an election. Together, we will make America strong again. You know what it's about? Fraud, fake ballots. We will make America wealthy again. They are trying to steal the election.
Now, under the leadership of President Trump, we are fully realizing President Kennedy's prescient view of Special Operations Forces.
We will make America proud again. And watch, please, those mail-in ballots. We will make America safe again. And in millions and millions of ballots. Their vote is under what they thought they needed. They're dumping more ballots in there, okay? And yes, together, we will make America great again. Thank you. God bless you. We are right about the fraud. Joe Biden can't be president.
Congress, the chair declares the joint session dissolved.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Wednesday edition of the Devolution Power Hour. As always, and half unfortunately, I'm joined by Just Human and Bernie Bright. You're the unfortunate part, Bernie Bright. How's it going?
Unfortunately, not too bad. Just living the dream. Right. Yeah.
I'm excited to see half of you next week, actually. Kyle's not coming.
Technically, that's me, because Kyle's
not.
Yeah, all right.
I know. Reluctantly, I said that. I regretted it halfway through.
Driving to the airport at like 2 a.m. to see you. Oh, great. John's internet, I see, has gone downhill.
Oh, shoot, it did.
Since leaving his bunker.
And it froze on him with pursed lips, looking at you disapprovingly.
Are we still live? I mean, we could just
I can't believe you're the one who's headed to Deadwood.
We seem to be live, according to the normal... So I think we're live, hasn't tanked us.
And he's not.
This isn't bad. I feel like this can work. Because it's not like we've totally taken over. It's just internet things have made it so that John's takes are just going to be a little bit less energetic than usual. Not a huge difference, I don't think. Anyway, Kyle, how are you doing? How have you been?
Bye, John. I've been doing all right. Been reading a lot of court docs lately, and then
I'm shocked to hear
a lot of court docs lately, and then my gut kind of dropped a little bit at about, I don't know, was it like 9 p.m. or 8 p.m. whenever John posted that we were going to talk about the Google antitrust decision. I was like, oh shit, I don't think I saw it, and if I did see it, I completely forgot it because I've looked at so much other stuff. So I went to go look at it, and the first thing I noticed is it's a 286-page decision. And I'm like, I gotta look at this thing before we go live.
All right, you're back for now.
Okay, we're gonna. Okay, good evening, everybody. I'm
What's going on with your internet?
I don't know. It just like quit, and then it kicked me out of StreamYard, and then it just reloaded. So
the intro video was a little glitchy. So I don't know.
Dang it. I don't know what's going on.
Dakota shit.
I don't get it.
Hopefully the guard stream works. If all of Dakotas are like this.
It's bullshit, man. Whatever.
Is that it?
We shall persevere.
We have CrowdStrike for the Badlands event.
Yeah, right.
She persists.
Honestly, they're in everything, so who knows? We probably do in some fashion. Know what it is? Badlands is critical infrastructure. We're part of the InfoWar critical infrastructure, and therefore CrowdStrike is on our shit because of that.
Attacks will intensify. I get it. Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
can't help it.
We can use that to brand ourselves.
Anyway, I'm going to assume you guys didn't talk any shit while I was gone for those
not much
2 minutes, and we'll just move on into the show.
Okay.
The regularly scheduled broadcasting. Should be a fun show tonight. We're going to talk about Kamala Harris and her new VP pick, which is somewhat surprising. A lot of people thought she was going to go Shapiro. She went with Walz instead. Then we're going to get into some Trump comms about Biden and the upcoming convention and about election. I mean, it's this one truth post that he had was just fascinating. We're going to talk a little bit about the Democratic plans. There's been some signal over what they're going to end up potentially doing if and when Trump is declared the winner of the 2024 election. We'll get into that COG document that I found on, was it Saturday's Power Hour? I've narrowed it down to when they made the change, and we can discuss that a little bit. And then we'll see what else we get into. We can get into the market stuff. I know, Kyle, you got some assassination stuff from the Middle East we can get into.
Yep.
Bernie Bright, I know you sent me stuff, but I didn't read any of it, so maybe we can talk about that.
We never usually have time, but we can find some. Just some Fedi stuff. I thought there was a little China signal, sovereign alliance signal. Not so much sovereign alliance signal, but economic plans that map onto some things we've discussed in terms of China onshoring at the same time we are, which I think is a sovereign alliance signal. So that's interesting.
Do you think this is why?
I don't know, but it's
because I was being mean to you.
They only capitalized one of my names.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna start doing that now all the time. I mean, no, I'm not. I'm going to be nice to you for the rest of the stream and see if that's
All
what's happening.
Yeah, you know,
you look lovely.
This is my
tonight,
birthday, Gart. It might be a Dakota, and your birthday already passed. It's a distant memory now. But this Gart is my birthday, Gart. That's what it's going to be.
We're never scheduling a Gart. I mean, we're going to schedule every Gart around your birthday this time of year. Okay, let's get a word from our sponsor of tonight's show, and then we'll get into the topics here. So first up, we got some lean. Field of Greens lean. Everybody's talking about those weight loss injections because the results are so dramatic. They work by lowering blood sugar and reducing your appetite. But what if you need to lose weight, you don't have the money, and you don't like those weekly shots? That's why doctors created a weight loss supplement called Lean. The results are remarkable. The studied ingredients in Lean have been shown to lower your blood sugar, burn fat by converting it into energy, and curb your appetite and cravings, so you're not as hungry. But listen, Lean is not for the casual dieter with only a few pounds to lose. The doctors at Brickhouse Nutrition created Lean for frustrated dieters with 10 or more pounds to lose. We can get you started with 15% off and free rush shipping, so you can add Lean to your healthy diet and exercise plan today. Visit takelean.com and enter John15, John15, Jon15. That's promo code JON15 at takelean.com. It'll turn you from THICK to THICC. Thick to thick. You know what I mean?
You're going to be a Twitch. That's John's fallback, is to be just a Twitch thought. After Badlands doesn't work out, he'll just be doing hot tub streams on Twitch. So we're doing in Deadwood, guys. We're doing if you act now, you will get access to the official hot tub stream.
Okay.
There's not gonna be anybody in it. It'll just be
it's just a stream of a hot tub.
Hot tub. Yep.
Empty hot tub. All right, we do have one more sponsor of tonight's show, EasyRx. We'd like to thank the folks over at EasyRx for sponsoring our show tonight. They've helped so many Badlanders get the medications they need without breaking the bank. As 2024 fires up for the summer, and it seems to be a rerun of 2020, it's the perfect time to stock up on the suppressed medications and get your family ready for anything that they might throw at us this upcoming election season. EasyRx has a wide variety of high-quality medications like ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, fenbendazole, and so many more. Fake news is getting more exposed every single day. People are waking up to the truth about health and many inexpensive life-saving medications. You can find them all right here at EasyRx. The process is simple, the shipping is fast, and prices are unbeatable. You can breathe easy knowing that you and your family are prepared for anything. So don't wait any longer. Visit badlandsmedia.tv/EasyRx. Use promo code Badlands for 10% off your purchase of $150 or more. That's badlandsmedia.tv/EasyRx, promo code Badlands. All right, guys. What do you think of the Walz pick? A little surprising. I think it's kind of stupid. My first initial reaction was, okay, they were going to go Shapiro, Pennsylvania, because it's a battleground state. Some call it the Keystone State. But maybe because they didn't do that, it's because Minnesota is going to be harder for them to steal. My brother lives in Minnesota. I know people from Minnesota, and that's a red state. Minnesota is a red state. Election fraud is rampant. Pretty sure they stole it in 2020. I think they're going to have a tougher time stealing it, and they know it, and that's why they did this. Because the pick, I mean, he's got so much baggage. It doesn't make much sense to me.
Go ahead, Kyle.
So I noticed last week, I think it was last week and maybe a bit of the week before, that it was like every day, every 24 to 48 hours in the news cycle, there was a new torso of the week for Kamala to be attached to. And the news cycle would like pump up Pete Buttigieg for like 24 to 48 hours. And then it would be Walz, and then it would be Shapiro, and then it would be someone else. And it was like they were trying to see which one actually got the response from the audiences that they wanted or something. They were just like testing out each one. And I don't know that they actually were. I kind of wonder if the media got played a bit on the shopping for Kamala's VP pick. And it might have been a fairly smart play where they were stealing a book from Trump's page and hyping up the VP pick by all these leaks and all of these leads, saying, oh, she's meeting with these people. It's been rumored that so-and-so from her camp is having dinner over here at so-and-so's. all that kind of stuff ended up feeding the intrigue. And I think it might have been a smart play by the Kamala campaign. And I think that Walz might have always been the person she was looking for. And I do recall coming across an article early on in the VP's sweepstakes or whatever they were, that made the case for Walz, and it highlighted the background connections between Kamala's group of people, Obama's group of people, and Walz's group of people. And that there was a lot of familiarity there, and there were a lot of networks there. And they were saying, look, it's going to be this person because there's already this established relationship there that's so substantial. And there's a lot of money that has gone back and forth with these people. So it's going to be him. And I dismissed it at the time because, one, I barely know who Walz is. But two, I looked at the article and I saw a clip of him in the article, like interacting with people and looking so incredibly awkward and unnatural and like someone you would want to get as far away. He reminded me of the cringy, creepy manager that comes into your franchise store and takes over for a day and speaks really nice to certain people, but then is like super cutthroat. And you know that if you don't have whatever food item set out to thaw at the right time, he's going to fire you like that day. Like, I don't know if you guys ever worked a franchise job like that, but like when the regional manager would come in, they would like have the big smile and they would like pour sugar on the customer, but then turn around to the staff.
That motherfucker.
Yeah, and they were just like
one.
ruthless. Yeah, and you never wanted to be on shift when the regional manager was in the store because you could lose your job for the most simplest of things, right? And he reminded me of that, and I just took a glance at him, and I was like, this guy's a bad pick. There's no way she's going to put him on the ticket, and then she did.
Yeah.
And I still think it's a bad pick, and I told you guys before the show that to me it's the kind of pick that on paper you can make a good argument for, but when it comes to activating it and implementing it, it fails. And it fails for a number of intangibles. It fails because of circumstances. It just doesn't work right, even though on paper in the boardroom you could kind of make a case for it. And you see that happen with athletes sometimes, where there's like this athlete makes all the sense as a player in this team, and then they go to that team and it's just a disaster.
Just doesn't work.
And you look back and you're like, why did they ever think that would work? But at the time, it looks like it would, and you can rationalize it to yourself. And with Walz, I think some of the things that are that make him work for her, such as the past relationships, the money, the union endorsement, the leftist groups that they both interact with and are popular with, donors they're both popular with, etc. Him delivering Midwest votes and her needing to strengthen up that section of the country, especially after Trump strengthened up his performance in that section of the country with the J.D. Vance pick. So this election is going to be very competitive in that region. You can make it make sense for that reasons, but the obvious thing that there are downsides with him are just the way he comes across on camera and to people. All these scandals that he has, the fact his last name is Walz, which is constantly going to remind people of the border every time that you mention his name. And Trump's going to be able to constantly loop back to the border anyway because of Kamala. So he can just bounce between both of them, bringing up the border, and it never quite exits your mind. And then the summer riots, he can just over and over again destroy Walz for everything he did during the summer riots and what he didn't do. I mean, just on and on and on and on. These are obvious things that make him a bad pick, and yet she chose him. And I know I'm hogging the mic. Let me just say one more thing, that we were talking about this on Defecta, and we were looking at polls, and I know the polls are fake, and the polls are created to create news. The news the polls are creating as concerns Kamala replacing Biden are that she is marginally better than Biden on the ticket. At best, she's marginally better to have on the ticket than Biden was. And yet they went through all of this to get him off of the ticket and to insert her. And what did they gain? Like 1.2% so far after like 3 weeks. It's not the gain you want. And then she adds this VP pick I'm sure the polls will reflect some kind of boost initially and whatnot. I wouldn't be surprised to see the polls made to show her ahead by a few percentage points for a while. But when you replace a candidate at the top of the ticket in the way they did, what you want is like 3 weeks later them to have like a 5-7 point lead. You want it to be this big turnaround, and I don't think you've seen that at all with Kamala, and I don't think Walz as the VP pick changes that.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, John, you're probably maybe more familiar with the name because, like you said, I mean, you're obviously in that general region. But like Kyle said, I mean, we do a political show several days a week, and we write about this shit on our personal time. We all dig into the info war constantly, and this guy was not on my radar at all, like in any way. So that's why it was initially a little surprising to me, just because I was kind of looking at Shapiro too. I did think, as an aside, it was hilarious that Trump kind of has the current iteration of Democrats bent over an ideological barrel when it comes to Jews, because he literally attacked them for not picking Shapiro and said it was because he was Jewish. And the Democrats didn't want to. Do I think that's why they didn't pick him? No. But like, what are they supposed to say to Trump saying that? They're the ones who created the rules that we're not allowed to talk about any sort of attacked or protected class, especially that one. So when Trump comes out and he's like, you're not being very fair to the Jews by not picking Shapiro, they just can't respond to that sort of argument. So they don't respond to it, which the silence is deafening. In terms of the pick, I think that the fact that I didn't feel much about it at all when it was announced demonstrates that it was a total dud. And I had the overwhelming feeling over the last couple days looking through headlines and, scraping the Politicos and the Hills of the world. And they've got their 15 headlines about why this was such a great idea and all that kind of stuff. No normies know who this guy is. Like, nobody knows who it is. So, at best, it was a totally neutral move by literally the least popular candidate in the last 20 years in American politics is Kamala Harris. She picks a guy who at best is nothing. And I had written about yesterday, once you start digging into him, then it's all bad, right? Like, it'd be different if the surface level was this really impressive fool's gold, where years ago I could have seen pre-COVID a Gavin Newsom being like that. Like, oh, he's from this impressive family, he's the governor of California, like he's got this roaring economy, circa 10 years ago. Yeah. His reputation was destroyed with COVID. But with Walz, you're like, okay, a generic old white guy. Like, that's what the country sees. It's ironic because she's the diverse candidate who's replacing the old white guy. So I see this as a pandering pick to the old white guy segment of the Democratic Party, which is ironic for somebody like as progressive as her. But then when you peel away any layers of the onion, you just see an extreme, like, I would call him a radical extremist in terms of leftist rhetoric. He is an extremist. I mean, he's pretty much unapologetic. He doesn't try to couch his language. He just talks about abortion to the 9th month, burn down whatever fucking city you want to do. And I saw the meme going around of Trump's truth of all caps, thank you, with an exclamation point. And people had put it over images of burning Minneapolis, right? Minneapolis burning down in 2020. And it's like, this is where I often go in my own mind into Patriot control. I don't know what's going on here. I'm just going to say, right now in the UK, we have extremely contentious social situations where the BBC is being protested for using mostly peaceful riots in headlines right now. Sorry, largely peaceful is the UK version of it. While the Harris campaign just installs one of the governors who cheered it all on, the epicenter of that shit in 2020. And I'm supposed to see this as a well-meaning, organic decision by a side that wants to distance themselves from extreme leftism. Like this wasn't the move. So I guess it's good news. I don't think it was a good pick.
You know, I almost wonder if this was the Democrat Party response to Trump picking Vance, a guy from Ohio, like a Midwest white guy.
Yeah.
This is them like, okay, well, any voters that he might sway, this is our response to him. But again, once you dig into him, there's nothing good about this guy in any way. It's like when you look at politics today, you have Trump, who survived the assassination attempt. He's like he's immortal in a lot of ways because of that whole scenario. And then the best that the Democrat Party can do is Kamala Harris and who's this guy? Like Walz, like it's
just some guy.
It doesn't strike a chord with me. It's not a big name. I don't know. It's just lame. It's boring. And he's got baggage.
Are they sinking this ticket on purpose?
Well, you do wonder, right? Because you've got and I had said this again in an article I put out today, that I really am looking at Trump's shark comms that we've been joking about for months. What's he been talking about? Like, he's bringing up, but a lot of shark attacks recently, and to the point where he was getting The Atlantic putting out editorials twice a day talking about how it doesn't make sense that he's talking about all the sharks in the water. And we've got the Hillary Clinton book tour coming up that Kyle and I discussed on Sunday night, and a lot of the dates are coinciding with the election cycle, the meat of the election cycle. It feels like a sacrifice. But whatever the political establishment is doing here, I am more convinced than ever of the deep state archipelago concept that I talk about a lot, specifically when it comes to the media. Because I believe that the media is genuinely all in. I think they're cut off. And you can tell because they didn't immediately go all in on Kamala. Half of them were defending Joe, half of them were pushing for Kamala. When Kamala comes in, when Joe makes his announcement, the media goes all in, right? So now they're all in on Kamala, and then the collective mind is going to see them go all in on whoever's next. And I feel like everyone has the same gut feeling that there's no way this is it. Like, there's no way this is the end, and we're just going to go forward, and this is the ticket. I mean, if that's what they're going to try to steal an election on, I feel even more confident about some sort of awakening.
And that's kind of what makes Trump's Truth Social post even that much more interesting, because ever since Biden got sick, disappeared, and then came back and announced he was dropping out and did the little press conference, we haven't really seen him much. We saw him at the prisoner exchange where he got on that plane, which it was interesting. You guys see that? I can't remember where I saw it, but that plane that they used for the Russian prisoner exchange was the same. It looks like the same model of plane that Assange was getting on when he was going back home to Australia or whatever. Just notable, maybe. I don't know. I can try to find it later. But I'm gonna show this tweet now. Might as well. This is an interesting idea. Biden's been gone, but he's the one who got all the votes in the primaries, and this is what, and the money, and this is what Trump posted. What are the chances that crooked Joe Biden, the worst president in the history of the U.S., whose presidency was unconstitutionally stolen from him by comma blah, Barack Hussein Obama, crazy Nancy Pelosi, shifty Adam Schiff, crying Chuck Schumer, and others on the lunatic left, crashes the Democrat National Convention and tries to take back the nomination, beginning with challenging me to another debate? He feels that he made a historically tragic mistake by handing over the U.S. presidency, a coup, to the people in the world he most hates, and he wants it back now. And so there's like a lot of layers to this post. First of all, him seeding the idea of Biden wanting it back. I can't imagine if he showed up at the DNC convention and did some shit. I mean, that place would go bananas. Like, nobody would know what to do. I can't even imagine. We're going to be covering it. I don't know in what fashion, but there will be coverage of the convention. But that's not even the most interesting part to me. It's the way Trump phrased this. He could be describing himself when he's talking about a presidency being unconstitutionally stolen. That happened to him. And then also at the very end here, historically tragic mistake by handing over the U.S. presidency to the people in the world he most hates. And on paper, that is exactly what Trump did. And honestly, it kind of takes some balls for Trump, knowing that the election was stolen, and who on paper has walked away from that and handed it over to these people. Like, it takes some balls to like say that about somebody else when it's kind of you who did that yourself. But is he doing it to get people to be like, bro, that's exactly what you did? Obviously, I don't think that is what he did. I think there's something else that was implemented, devolution. But I found this whole thing fascinating on so many levels.
It made me think of, I mean, I even saw when I was looking for items for the Badlands brief tomorrow, I saw a few headlines where the mainstream media was picking up on this tweet and kind of demonizing it. I had a few people kind of tweet at me and say, looks like the media is taking the bait. Now, sometimes you can almost see people taking Trump bait, even if you don't necessarily know what the trap is, right? You're like, this seems too easy. And there were a bunch of media figures. The one that comes to mind is Newsweek had a headline like, Donald Trump is now trying to convince everybody that this is a conspiracy against Joe Biden and why that's nonsense. And they had this whole editorial there. And, you know, I don't know what direction it's going in, but it seems like Trump gets the media to tiptoe into whatever trap he wants to spring, and then he does. So it could be that we're going to see some sort of actual return to the stage of Biden, but usually that's not how these things go. And I've been trying to think of what is he actually pushing? Is he trying to get the media to go even deeper in defense of Kamala and Walz and demonize the Biden administration even more? You know, like there's a few different ways that you could game this out in kind of opposite directions and see them being trapped. But either way, they're reacting to the take, and it certainly feels it was a reminder to me. One of the things I was joking about yesterday is isn't it kind of funny that nobody in the US seems to recognize that Joe Biden is still the current fake president? Like, I know that we're talking about the November election cycle, but Kamala is being treated as the president of the United States right now. It's crazy. They're talking to her when she gets off of planes, doing all the president bullshit that they do. Where the fuck is Joe? I know this is so obvious to us, but to normies, you're like, where's your president? Where is he? And I feel like Trump's truth was sort of signaling that too, of being like, hey guys, do you remember your president? The other guy?
Well, actually, she hasn't taken questions from reporters in like 2 weeks.
No.
And that's why it was so funny today. JD Vance, I don't know if you guys saw that video.
Yeah.
He landed on the same tarmac as her, and he walked over by her plane and was like, I'm just checking out the plane I'm going to have in a couple months. And, wondering why Kamala never takes questions from you guys. And then he like walks off. It was a pretty badass move. But Kyle, you have anything to say on this?
Yeah. A couple things. So will you bring the that truth back up, please? All right. So one, he spelled stolen correctly, which he doesn't always do.
Mm-hmm. But he capitalized it.
If you take out the aside from the first sentence, which is the middle part of it where he names people off, what he asks is, what are the chances that crooked Joe Biden ... crashes the Democrat National Convention?
Mm-hmm.
I think the chances of that are very high. And tries to take back the nomination. I don't know, but that sounds pretty interesting. I'd like to see him try.
Mm-hmm.
Beginning with challenging me to another debate. There's been some back and forths about Trump and Kamala debating and when it's going to happen, and it's been on, it's been off, it's been on, it's been off.
Yeah, she hasn't accepted.
I wouldn't be surprised if the reason we haven't seen Biden around is because Biden is liable to go off on a microphone if you put one in front of him and say, "Where's Trump? I'm going to debate him again." You can picture the angry old man Joe wanting to have another debate, especially after this coup against him. And I just want to say, like, one of the things that stood out to me about the prisoner swap was that it happened after this thing had been switched around and Biden had been removed and Kamala had been put up there. But this prisoner swap is the kind of thing that gets pinned onto a president's legacy as a big achievement.
even though it was Europeans who negotiated it.
Yeah, I know. But what happened here with the news cycles is that the news cycles were focused on Kamala and her taking the top of the ticket. And all of a sudden this prisoner thing happens and Biden is already an afterthought. The news cycle has moved away from him. And I don't think that prisoner swap, I think that hurts Biden. I think that's the kind of thing that where Trump points out the people he hates right here took the presidency from him. I think that kind of thing right there, switching them out before this prisoner swap and robbing Joe Biden of that victory lap is the kind of thing that makes him hate them. And one of the reasons I say that is because in the in the Her report, where he's describing Biden's notes about himself and how Biden thinks of himself, Biden comes across as thinking about himself as being one of having the timber. He said he had presidential timber. That's what Biden believed about himself, is that he was presidential timber like Teddy Roosevelt and Lincoln and whatnot. It doesn't matter how ridiculous it is. This is what Biden believes about himself, okay? And he's not treated that way by the Democrat Party. The Democrat Party has never treated him as someone of that stature. And I think it vexes Biden, and he holds that against them. And I think that it also comes from that in the Her report where it talks about Afghanistan withdrawal, and Biden does all of this work to convince Obama to do something different, and him and Obama end up having this big disagreement, and they have to have a lunch and a breakfast together or whatever. They had a serious falling out about it, and Biden wrote that memo that became an issue in the Her report in that investigation because Biden believed he was making the correct presidential decision and Obama was wrong. And he wants recognition for that. He's upset still to this day that he was arguing against the Afghanistan expansion and deployment of more troops to Afghanistan back in 2013 or whatever it was, and that Obama didn't listen to him, and that Obama did that and surged the troops. Biden views himself as having gotten that moment in history correct. And I promise you, Biden views himself as having gotten this prisoner swap correct, and that he deserves accolades for it. And that those were taken away from him because the media has a new favorite person to talk about. And it's Kamala, or Kamabla, as Trump called her, right? So anyway, I'm saying all this to say that what Trump is putting in that truth, yeah, it's fun, but I think there's a real there when it comes to Biden having animosity towards his own party and them leveraging him out and then trying to hide him away at the beach house and have him eat ice cream for the rest of his term. I don't think it's going to work well because Biden is obsessed with his legacy. That's why he got investigated for stealing classified or retaining classified documents in the first place. He took notes every single day as a senator, as a vice president, and as a president now, I'm sure. Took notes every day and had them saved, archived, and because he believes he is a legend. And so that kind of a person who sees themselves that way, you do that person what we believe, what we understand Kamala, Obama, Schiff, and others did to him, they don't respond well.
Did you guys see
what's funny? Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, did you guys see the clip that Jesse Waters put out about Pelosi? Well, why don't you make your point and I'll find this and I'll show you.
Well, I just wanted to take Kyle's framing there of the current timeline, but put a filter on that of Joe Biden as cooperating human source or full control, whatever you want to say, Patriot control over Joe Biden, and say that it could still work with what you're saying. So basically, I'm one of those people who kind of thinks a lot of the stuff Joe's been doing is marching to the beat of a Patriot drum for a long time. We've talked about this quite a bit. And, in a very literal way, in terms of he is doing things to damage the establishment while he was in office and still to this day. The irony there is that everything you just said, Kyle, and with what Trump is signaling in that truth can still work in that framing. So it can still work with a Joe Biden who was under Patriot control, is under Patriot control. And I took that truth as if we do see Joe Biden come out and fuck stuff up for the deep state, it is very difficult for me to see that as the move a person makes who is still under the control of the deep state. Because even if everything you said about Joe Biden's personality and his obsession with his legacy is true, which I believe it is, there's got to be a certain fear factor there of stepping out of line when you know the establishment considers you Old Yeller right now, right? If you're Biden and his family, are you actually going to step forward and try to screw up whatever their plan is if you don't have some sort of other backing that you know is going to protect you? So I almost take that truth as Trump signaling, you know what we talk about with the Q drops and with Donald Trump, they speak to multiple audiences. And often I think that he is speaking to them. And when he puts that truth out, I think he's telling them, did you think that Joe was your boy? Like, do you think that Joe's actually going to take all this lying down? It does feel like it has that pattern of giving the enemy just enough rope to hang themselves. And if we are right, some of the theories are right about Joe Biden being a little more our guy than theirs these days because of what you're talking about. What you just laid out, it gives motive for a family like that and for a guy like that to have defected from a criminal cabal. It doesn't mean he's not one of them. It just means they all hated him. They ridiculed him publicly and privately his entire time in that organization. And Joe probably thought like, hey, even if you take politics out of it, you just think of this as a criminal organization. He was like, I'm Fredo. I've been doing my job in this crime family for my whole career in the Senate, and you've never respected me. So fuck you. I'm going to the winning side. And this might be another indication of Trump giving them that hint of like, I hope you guys are confident that Joe's going to keep his mouth shut and just kind of stay in the woodshed like you put him.
Let me play this quick. I have it sped up a little bit, but you'll get the point.
Overthrowing a president, it takes a village. The Clintons, Obamas, Schumer, and the ringleader, Nancy Pelosi, all came together to kick Biden out. Pelosi was finally asked about it.
Please tell us what you told President Biden to persuade him to step aside.
Well, I've never shared any conversations with the President of the United States publicly, no.
It said that he's furious at you. Is he?
Well, he knows that I love him very much.
I understand that you don't want to own this, but it is so well reported that you were the leader of a pressure campaign.
No, I wasn't a leader of any pressure party. Well, let me say things that I didn't do. I didn't call one person. I did not call one person. I could always say to him, I never called anybody.
That's her saying that she didn't initiate it. People were calling her to get her to do it. Stupid, but interesting she says it, but this gets better.
I'm saying is I had confidence that the president would make the proper choice for our country, whatever that would be. And I said that, whatever that is, we'll go with.
Biden didn't make a choice. He was staring down the barrel of a gun. Pelosi and the Democrats went for what Biden cared about most, his legacy. They brandished the 25th Amendment, threatened to yank his presidential library, and deployed a coordinated media strike to tarnish his rep. Biden knows the game and is never speaking to Nancy again.
Have you spoken to President Biden since he dropped out?
No, I have not.
Do you hope to?
Yes, I hope to.
Yeah.
We're all busy.
Is everything okay with your relationship?
We're all busy.
You'd have to ask him.
We know how Washington
You'd
works.
have to ask
they
him.
gave 10% to the big guy and showered him with flattery.
Such a consequential president of the United States, a Mount Rushmore kind of president of the United States. Want to know what comes next?
That's how he sees himself.
Up there on Mount Rushmore. Lincoln and Joe Biden.
But you got Teddy Roosevelt up there, and he's wonderful. I don't say take him down, but you can add Biden.
Leslie Stahl, who believes everything Democrats tell her. Laptop wasn't real. COVID was natural. Couldn't believe Biden on Mount Rushmore. I'm sure they'll build him a statue that the Arab Spring breakers will tear down on a hot summer night. But the Democrat patronage mill is in full swing. Obama was forced to endorse Kamala, so now his top strategist is being paid to run the Harris campaign. Bill and Hillary endorsed. Now their daughter, Chelsea, is...
It is like a 6-minute long video, but this is pretty damn interesting about the dynamics of what's going on. So I think we should watch a little bit more here. But yeah, it's notable that Pelosi's like He's mad at me. Like, he won't talk to me. It's up to him. Ask him.
I just made the Fredo reference, and I saw people, but that's not the Fredo of Badlands, people. Watch some movies. Fredo from The Godfather. It's the crime.
Stop accosting our audience, okay? Please.
It's the mafioso who doesn't, for everybody who has never seen The Godfather, he's the mafioso who doesn't get the respect he deserves, and he's the one who betrays the crime family. So this is the type, Pelosi seems to not trust what Biden is doing right now.
Angling to be the ambassador to Great Britain if Kamala wins. It's usually a gig reserved for major fundraisers or well-connected WASPs, not for Clinton nepotism. After talking about all this, I feel like I have to take a shower. Charlie Hertz, a Fox News contributor. Mount Rushmore.
Okay, I don't need other commentary. But yeah, it's very interesting, this whole dynamic. And I still, the fact in that Trump True Social post where he says in all caps that it was stolen, and right before that, unconstitutionally, I wonder if there's a there where the way that he got all these votes and then he just handed it over, where that's not allowed. I'm pretty sure, like, after the primary season, the only way to remove the candidate at that point is through the 25th Amendment or like death or something of the candidate. I'm pretty sure that's like somewhere in the law, or maybe it's not the law, it's the DNC rules. Private group, they can probably do whatever they want, but that was the rules. And so I wonder if Biden would have a case if he showed up and was like, no, I want it. I'm going to do it. I'm the candidate. And if that, who knows if that'll actually happen. It's interesting that Trump is pointing it out. Maybe there is something there. But yeah, there's definitely some division within the Democrat Party. And if he did do that, if he did show up, they would be forced to then 25th Amendment him, which that would cause even further division and disarray.
Yes.
It's nuts.
That's very, I really think that Nancy's words there reveal so much. But I also can't help but notice that Nancy is wearing yellow, and I'm one of these weird conspiracy theorists who thinks that, one, yellow sometimes means Q, and two, I think Nancy Pelosi flipped on the deep state a while back, and that's why her husband got into that drunk driving accident, and that's why her husband got attacked by that psycho, is because she turned against the deep state and they tried to threaten her and her husband. And that's why she's not Speaker of the House anymore. So I almost want to say, like, listening to her talk about having a falling out with Biden, I wonder if that's a bit of kayfabe between her and Biden.
She's kind of smiling.
Yeah, but I'm trying to decide if I believe her that there was a real falling out, because Nancy Pelosi is experienced and smart enough to not let things like that slip in an interview.
If you think
she let those things slip on purpose, like letting it slip about, you'd have to ask him, letting it slip about Mount Rushmore. She said that Mount Rushmore thing when she said that, I got the impression that is speaking from memory of a conversation they had with Biden, where they're leveraging his desire to take care of his legacy against him and saying, get out now and let Kamala take the top spot, or else we're going to make sure your legacy is in tatters.
Yeah, because you don't take a Mount Rushmore potential type president with another potential term left and be like, nah, we're going to run somebody else. It doesn't make sense. But let's pretend for a second that Biden isn't like turning against the deep state. He's just boxed in. All these people are just boxed in by devolution. Okay. If you're them, you know that your only hope the only way you think you can get out of this situation is by making sure Trump doesn't get back. And if you look at it from that angle, that makes sense of like everything they've done since Biden got put in there, like all the lawsuits, all the election bullshit, like everything, the illegal immigration, all these things. Now, when it comes to Biden, you realize how bad that debate was for you. And so you take that as your opportunity to swap him out. And so if you're Biden and you Alzheimer's, you're not a guy wearing a mask, you're just an old guy, doesn't think straight all the time, and you don't understand fully what is going on, you do feel a very high level of betrayal. Like there's a chance he actually believes that he got 81 million votes and he's got this super successful record and all these poll numbers and all these things. He might actually believe all that shit. He might have no idea all this other stuff that's going on. And if that's the case, then you're even more confused now than you've probably ever been. So
we said,
go ahead.
We said on these shows, I think Power Hour and Defected, it was part of the Our Boy Blue stuff, but we said, look for Donald Trump to start coming to the defense of Joe Biden a few weeks ago.
Did.
Now, I was forwarding that as an idea of that would be a calm to me of he's our boy. But in fairness with your framing, John, it doesn't have to mean that. If everything you just laid out about the deep state is accurate, right? There's no direct Patriot control over Joe Biden in particular.
Which is what I've always believed, yes.
Yeah. So let's just say that. It still works what Trump is doing here, the baiting, because you're going to try to foment this infighting. You're sitting on the sidelines there, and Trump knows everybody's looking at the signals he's putting out. The deep state more than we are, right? It's the same thing. Like, I've been mentioning Fredo and Godfather tonight. It's crime wars, crime families dealing with each other. They're putting out these communications against each other. They're talking to each other through the press. They're saying things in trials. This was a famous thing during the Gambino trials, where there would be testimonies where they were basically seeding in code phrases so that other crime members or families in New York would see those comments in newspapers and take messages from them. And sometimes those messages were threats that they were communicating. I think Trump's doing that to them and saying, again, take away him being our guy, our boy blue, all of that. Trump's just going things don't look, they're hemmed in by devolution. The crabs in a bucket are starting to go after each other. Well, if you're Donald Trump, you just poke them. You give the bucket a little shake, and you try to just accelerate that infighting. And I think it's that you can also take that framing and apply it to Donald Trump's comms and his hints of they're going to put somebody else in, right? He was saying it about Joe Biden. He's still saying it about Kamala Harris. He's saying that they're going to swap her out and put somebody else in. He's kind of alternating that messaging. That could point to Patriot control, and he knows exactly what they're going to do. Or it can be a game theory thing where he's saying, Kamala's not the pick. You know it, we know it, and I'm letting the American people know it. So when are you going to put all your cards on the table? When is Hillary actually coming out of the closet? Because Trump knows it, we know it. It's like the most obvious thing ever, unless she just happens to be running a book tour right in the
tour
heat.
Dates, yeah,
right in the heat of when Kamala is supposed to be debating Joe Biden. Debating Joe Biden. Maybe she will. Debating Donald Trump. So this is what I always use that word bicameral, and this conversation is a perfect example of I can take everything Trump put into that truth and go, our boy Blue, Fredo, he turned on the family and he's ours, or we've just got them hemmed in and Donald Trump is exploiting Joe Biden as still being a key weakness of the deep state and something that he can still exploit because that guy is still technically the president.
Okay. Can I finish what I was saying earlier now?
No.
After you so rudely interrupted. Okay. So Biden, they're all hemmed in, right? Maybe the Patriots in full control is a matter of it doesn't effing matter what happens in 2024 because of what happened in 2020. You know what I mean? Like, what if all this disarray doesn't matter the candidate, doesn't matter anything? Like, nobody can legitimately beat Trump regardless. But if Trump has proof of election fraud from 2020, what does any of this matter in 2024? Do you know what I mean? Like,
that's always been the question, the key question.
Exactly. I mean, I know we're probably going to narratively have an election if they have anything to do with it. But if they're hemmed in and Trump knows the actual poll numbers and everything, and nobody can actually legitimately beat Trump, like this is perfect scenario because the disarray is only going to make things worse for them. And they have no splashy candidates they can put out there. Hillary Clinton, if that's their best bet, like they're screwed. Like, can you think of any other legitimate candidate that they could put forth that could win an election over Trump
the whole time?
Exactly.
And this is why some of the memes that are really effective that, some of our friends like Storm Storm 17 and Patriots in Control, I see them putting out the side-by-side images constantly of Politico 2 weeks apart. This isn't 2 years apart headlines. This is 2 weeks apart headlines of talking about Kamala Harris is dragging down the Biden campaign versus now she's leading in polls. And that's why we have such disdain for the polls. Even like you said, Kyle, with, they've shown this 1.5%. It's like, I really think that part of what the Kamala deployment is hopefully attempting to do with the American people is tell them how fake these polls are, because it doesn't make any sense. Even by the measure that they take in their polling, they were telling us she was their least popular candidate, including Joe Biden. So now her running for the president, it doesn't make any sense, and nobody thinks it makes any sense. It's this weird little illusory narrative cycle that they're pushing right now. You just wonder, how long are they going to keep this going? Because they're running on fumes.
And knowing that they create these polls and they curate the polls and massage them for the purpose of creating the news story, why did they not make the polls say what they needed them to say to match up with the hype for Kamala?
Mm-hmm.
Instead, the polls are underwhelming.
Right.
So why would they allow that to be the case?
Is that what you're thinking? You guys don't think she's going to be the head of the ticket?
It just does not feel permanent. It doesn't feel permanent. It really doesn't.
The only way I can try to play devil's advocate, because I feel like it's not going to be her. That's just what I think. But if I want to say, okay, it is Kamala and she is going to be the candidate, if I'm trying to rationalize why are they still putting forth that the polling is really close, but Kamala has some momentum, that just maps onto the idea that they know if you've got somebody that you've been telling all your readers is the least popular politician in the United States, even you probably know you can't be like, oh, it's going to be a shoo-in. She's going to destroy Donald Trump. So they did this with Joe Biden leading up to the election, where they're like, oh, it's a nail biter. We're going to need 6 to 7 to 8 days to figure out who won the election. So they might just be planning to do that if it is Kamala, where they're like, no, we told you it was going to be close. It just turns out that, the Tim Walz pick really put it over the edge for Kamala. That's what really got, it sounds so insane to people like us, but the 2020 election, as John pointed out, we know was bullshit. And there is a certain degree of these people will ultimately, if Donald Trump winning an election is an existential threat to the deep state, they will quite simply say whatever they need to say to the American people that they have complete disdain for. They're just going to tell you that Kamala Harris is your new president. Deal with it. We're the ones who count the votes.
Here's the one caveat to all this. Remember how we've been talking about they're going to do that virtual roll call and vote for her ahead of the DNC convention? Or originally it was going to be Biden because of what's going on the Ohio ballot situation.
Yeah.
They did that. And they did that Monday. The DNC committee's virtual roll call has closed. The Democrat Party announced the vice president got 99% of the votes. The DNC chair said that they would be certified by the convention secretary, formalizing her as a Democratic nominee. And there would be a celebratory roll call at the convention later this month. So it looks like it's final.
Well, I mean,
appears that
it's
way.
Final for now.
But we shall see, as Trump has hinted at.
I was just trying to make the point that even if it is her, and we know there's no way she can win a legitimate election, this is what we've been talking about on this show for 2 years. Ultimately, if the news reports that somebody wins the election, that's the new president. We saw this literally in 2020. So you just wonder if they're going to be that bold with it this time. They have less of a story. They had more of a story last time than they do now.
Well, we're actually going to get into that next. So at the end of all this, we think Trump's going to be the one that's going to be declared the winner of the presidency, right? I think there's going to be shenanigans, whatever. We'll see how it plays out. But Trump is going to be the guy going into J6 this next time around that's got the votes. But the Democrats are not going to let him get in there. And so next we're going to talk about their plan, something we've kind of talked about before, but it's being seeded again even more heavily these last couple of days of how they're going to prevent that from happening. But before we do, we got to get to some boosts.
All right. Oh, I got the wrong tab up.
And while
Okay,
you're pulling,
we got
while you're pulling that up, two things. First of all, one, don't forget to hit the like button. Number two, tomorrow at 2:15 p.m. Eastern, we are hosting our first exclusive live stream for ticket holders to GART, which is coming up next week. So you should get your virtual ticket now so you can join us on that live stream. It's going to be fun. I know me and you are going to be there. I don't remember who else is coming.
Zach said he's going to be there for sure.
Yeah. We'll talk about whatever.
Yeah, we'll find. Want to share my screen here? I'll just show people the events page.
Yeah.
Just go to badlandsmedia.tv, click the events tab. We got here virtual tickets. So if you get in-person or virtual tickets to Deadwood, you'll get the live stream tomorrow. And for anybody who has tickets, virtual or physical, tomorrow around 12 or 1 o'clock is when the email is going to go out with not just a link to the virtual stream, but to the GART Deadwood Telegram chat. So we've mentioned this on some of the shows. Every GART, there is an exclusive Telegram chat that everybody who's a virtual ticket buyer gets an invite to. The one on GART 4 Dallas is still going on. There's like 900 people in there talking all the time. So it's a way to hang out. So that's when that goes live tomorrow. Anybody who buys it from now up through the event gets an invite to that Telegram group. And we shouldn't have to say this, but if you guys buy virtual tickets, make sure that you put the email address in that you use, right? So it's going to ask you for an email address to buy the tickets. It's going to ask you again for the email address to confirm your purchase. Put the email address in that you want us to send all of this stuff to. Yep. Because you'd be surprised at people that are like, I don't know, I just put some random thing in there and I didn't get the link. Yep. So yeah, anyway, that's...
Yes, and not only are you going to get access to, we're probably going to do 2 exclusive live streams here. We're going to do some, on Wednesday, we're going to do a little golf outing. So also if you're an in-person ticket holder, you received an email with a little survey monkey thing about whether or not you can come golf. We'll probably live stream a good chunk of that. So you can watch how bad some people are at golf or how great some people are at golf. I'm not going to say who is who. But then also we are going to be airing our upcoming documentary, and that is going to be on Saturday. And so with your virtual ticket, you will have access to that. And I think before we go through the booths, I should play the trailer quick. If I can find it on my feed. Here we go. And so this is, if you remember our first one, which I think has over 1 million views on.
Oh, really?
On our Rumble right now, I'm pretty sure. Let me double check that.
1.2 million.
Yeah, we got 1.2 million views on our Time of Deceit trailer. This one is called The Crucible of Donald Trump. And it's pretty unique. It's pretty awesome. So here's the trailer real quick.
We did it. We did it, Joe. You're going to be the next president of the United States.
What are these false claims of widespread election fraud doing to our country right now?
If we are right about the fraud, Joe Biden can't be president.
Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. and Dr. Jill Biden.
Heaven forbid, if we don't protect this democracy, this Constitution, against false narratives, against demagogic wannabe authoritarian leaders, shame on us.
The Russians are here. They're interfering in the election. They're at the heart of these leaks. They're working with WikiLeaks.
When you talk about misinformation on social media, you try and censor it. You try and prevent it from spreading, and the virus finds its way to another host.
It was the top scum. And the FBI people don't like the top scum.
Only president in American history to be impeached twice.
Sadly, the person who's running the executive branch is a deranged, unhinged, dangerous president of the United States.
They want to demolish our heritage so they can impose their new oppressive regime in its place.
If you don't impeach him, he might be elected again. That's the fear.
We are just in the midst of a transformation process where we move in the world from a unipolar to a multipolar world.
Congressman, I've never completely understood the term deep state.
President Biden, he is sharp, intensely probing, and detail-oriented and focused.
I don't only need you to get me elected, I need you once I'm elected.
It was essentially a bloodless coup
where they took over the presidency of the United States without a single shot being fired.
We will never give up. We will never concede. It doesn't happen. You don't concede when there's theft involved.
Man, even seeing that, maybe it's just bias of when we sort of entered the info war, but when you just see Hillary Clinton, it's like the impact of that character in the story is so much greater than a Kamala Harris. It's like she's like this D-list side character plot rail. And maybe that's what they're going for with this election, but man, like when you see Hillary, you're like, ugh, that's deep state right there. When you see Kamala, I don't even think deep state. I'm just like, she doesn't even know where she is.
Yeah.
She's just nobbling some globulins.
But anyway, if you guys want a chance to watch that before we premiere it, because I don't know when it'll come out for everybody else, so you'll need your virtual ticket. You talk a lot about goblin,
Yeah,
whatever.
I usually say it backwards too, but I think it's just funnier that way.
Yeah, I feel like there's something there. Like why?
She is a knobgoblin. That was one of our greatest achievements, I think.
Yeah, I would like to say I think I said that first, right?
You did. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Just wanted to.
I just made it absurd,
as you always do. You're muted.
What, Kyle?
Why am I muted?
Oh, no, I thought you were.
He was just thinking.
You were like stuttering with nothing coming out. It was weird.
Yeah. So anyway, I was watching that trailer, which I thought was very powerful. And there was a moment in there that I found very touching where Joe Biden said that he didn't really need the people to get into office, but he needed us after he was in office.
Because he knew they were coming for him.
And I just think that, the hashtag Our Boy Blue goes back quite a ways, at least to that moment where he said that.
I wonder when that was.
Hit me in the feels, Joe. Hit me in the feels.
I see people using it. It's okay, but we got to bring it back into the zeitgeist. The only person I'll flip out if they start using it is Pasovic, because he takes everything we've done, just repurposes it 6 months later.
Yeah, a lot of those cunning guys do. But okay, let's do the boost now.
All right, Lion.
Try not to berate the boosters if you could.
All right.
Bernie.
Hey, that booster, I think it was like Honey Baby or something.
Yeah, she came back.
She came back. She came back for more punishment. That's how you get the girls,
Honey Baby.
Treat them like pretty good, but a little bad. You know what I'm saying. Lionheart sends $50 over. Good evening, gentlemen. Thanks again for all the hard work. Kyle, I hear you totally. I originally did not support Trump. Thought he was a total clown. I was a Cruz supporter, but he proved me wrong like you. I'm not ashamed to admit it. God bless.
God bless you as well.
Yep. Next Gen Profit, $25. Selfishly, I want Hillary because she's the villain this narrative deserves. Shout out to the Clinton Foundation. Excited to see most of you in Deadwood in real life.
Shout out to the Clinton Foundation.
Yeah. Kyle was, going down a dark path at that time, but I think we got it back.
Dude, did it not play?
Whoa.
It played. You just are now pixelated.
Start being nice to BB again.
I'm going to have write a strong worded letter to my internet company.
Yeah. AOL 1999. Real Purdy 1 sent $117 over. I love the 5 minds behind DPH, and I love the brotherhood you all share. I appreciate all your research, insights, and thought-provoking and entertaining presentations. You guys are the best. Thank God for Badlands Media. I'm so grateful for all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's awesome. Brothers, I think brothers is a good, because I'd be like, well, we don't always feel like brothers, but, brothers fight quite a bit. So it's probably pretty apt.
Motherfucker.
Patrick's the older one from a previous marriage.
God.
We call him an uncle, but he's our brother. Mad Dog 3852, $25. Just an overflow from Defected. Mad Dog is a nickname for this mother of 3 adults. John met my son in Minnesota, my friend Sherry, and I met Kyle and John in Dallas. I did check on swabbing for Alaska trip and my family all on board for refusing. Did check on swabbing. Family is all on board for refusing. Nice. Oh, yeah. On board because of the boat. Get it?
Nice to see. I know her name, but I probably don't want to dox her. But thank you, Mad Dog.
Wow.
Her son was if it's like a really good player.
You're breaking up.
Because you won't for the Gophers now.
Sure, man.
You can play you are. I wish I could.
Whatever you say.
Am I like cutting out that or something?
Yep. Whatever you say, man. All right, one more. Crypt Keeper JL. Right says lies, left says lies. Right says left lies, left says right lies. The left is right and the right is right. Who will end the endless fight? Right and left and right. We fight. There you go. Nice little soliloquy. Nice little poem there. Well, that's all the boosts. Are you ready to join us on this side of the veil, John? You look clear now.
Dude, you gained like 1,000 more pixels than you had.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
This is so frustrating.
144p. You think there's anybody who chooses that resolution? They're like, I'm not going 360 this time.
Okay, I'm wondering if I should go down to like 480 to see if that will help my. I don't get it.
Yeah.
Something's weird.
I'm being striking your computer.
Sabotaged.
Checking out your Devo files.
We've always imagined that the deep state's attacks on us would be these like extremely subversive, asymmetric moves, but actually they're just going to be like, we just kind of screwed up with his internet just a little bit, just enough to annoy him, and he just quit and he never streamed again.
They could try to get to my files, but they can never figure them out. I got too many of them, and my system is confusing. So anyway, okay, that's all of them. Let's yeah, okay, so it was a while ago. It was like months ago. We were talking about this article that came out. It was right after the Colorado ruling. Okay, and there was an article written by Sidney Blumenthal, and I believe he was with the Clinton campaign, right? Or the Clintons?
Is he an advisor?
Yeah. He goes, yeah.
Yeah, so there's a relevant part of this I want to read. And it's right down here. They're talking about the 14th Amendment. Okay, let's start with the Supreme Court ruling that a state is not the proper body to determine a disqualification under the 14th Amendment, Section 3. That would, as the Ginsburg brief states, leave enforcement inevitably by a process of elimination to the Congress. The justices' frantic effort to escape responsibility for upholding the plain language of the 14th Amendment in the name of saving the country from a hypothetical political crisis would potentially create a very real constitutional one. In that light, the election result might prove irrelevant. The reason is that now, according to this scenario, the 119th Congress sworn in on January 3rd, 2025, could reject the electors from states for Trump by deciding that he is an insurrectionist. The Supreme Court would have set the stage. If Democrats were to win the House, they could remove Trump. If Republicans win control of the Senate, the majority leader, Mitch McConnell, refusing to whip the vote for Trump, could allow a number of Republican senators to vote for Trump's disqualification, which would void his electoral votes by both chambers. So this was interesting. We talked about it at the time. And I think we might have even talked about this on the same episode. We talked about that War Game movie, or it was around the same time.
Maybe, yeah.
The War Game movie where there were war gaming scenarios on January 6th.
Didn't we talk about that last week too?
A little bit. We watched the trailer because it finally came out, and I think the movie's out now. I think it was.
This was back before Colorado made the decision, so it would have been like March or February of this year, maybe.
This article was February 14th. Oh, that's super interesting because this there's this video. Man, that's way more interesting. There's this video from Raskin that's been floating around the last couple of days. I'm going to play it here, and ironically, this conference that he's speaking at was on February 17th, so 3 days later. But the video of this commentary is circling now. So let's watch this.
Quickly, and the greatest example going on right now before our very eyes is Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, which they're just disappearing with a magic wand, as if it doesn't exist, even though it could not be clearer what it's stating. And so They want to kick it to Congress. So it's going to be up to us on January 6, 2025 to tell the rampaging Trump mobs that he's disqualified. And then we need bodyguards for everybody and civil war conditions, all because the 9 justices, not all of them, but these justices who have not many cases to look at every year, not that much work to do, a huge staff, great protection, simply do not want to do their job and interpret what the great 14th Amendment means. And I'm glad that Sherilyn's creating her new center so we can bring that.
So around the same time frame, they're both seeing that narrative, but this is circulating now, which is interesting. And I think this is their plan. And this is something that Biden just said on an interview. And this interview hasn't actually aired yet, but it's airing this week sometime. But they released a clip on CBS, and check this out.
Are you confident that there will be a peaceful transfer of power in January 2025?
If Trump wins, no, I'm not confident at all. I mean, if Trump loses, I'm not confident at all. He means what he says. We don't take him seriously. He means it. All the stuff about if we lose, there'll be a bloodbath. Have be a stolen election. Look what they're trying to do now in the local election districts where people count the votes. They're putting people in place in states that they're going to count the votes, right?
Are you?
So even that clip there, a peaceful transfer of power from Biden to Kamala, like that's going to be peaceful, whatever. They've pretty much already done that transfer by making her the nominee. Trump, though, he's saying if Trump loses, then there won't be a peaceful transfer of power. It's interesting. Like all of these narratives right now are, to me, pointing to the January 6th date, and that's their goal. Like the election does not matter to these people at all, as long as they get enough people in Congress, in the House and Senate, to prevent Trump from being the nominee. But the key here is that the only way that there's going to be a true like Trump mob there on January 6th or any of this stuff, in my opinion, is if there's election shenanigans going on. And so this is fascinating. Like, but there's got to be a way that Trump can prevent this. He's game theoried this out. What is that then? But this is how they do it. Doesn't matter what the election says. They're going to prevent him from being the nominee on January 6th of 2025. They're going to pull the insurrection.
So I found an article from a month before this. It's from January 6th of that same year, 2022, right? And it's about Lawrence Tribe meeting with Raskin, Nadler, Schultz, and about 10 other Democrats discussing a plan to vote in Congress that Trump did engage in an insurrection and is ineligible, and they're not going to certify those slates of electors. And if they think their argument is they can do that with a simple majority of the House and the Senate. And then if they run into difficulty, a supermajority, I think, overrides the president or something. I don't remember. But anyway, that's their thing, is that, like, remember, this was written back in a time where there were all those 14th Amendment challenges going around the states, and they were trying to get all of these states to kick Trump off the ballot, right? So that was the context of these discussions. And I think underneath all that, when we were all focused on the states kicking Trump off the ballot, this was happening with Tribe and the people at that meeting where Raskin was speaking, and this little brain trust of high power players in DC were like, yeah, okay, there's that the 14th Amendment ballot challenges are what they are, but what we're going to plan is how we can build up our final line of defense. And our Maginot line, our final line of defense, is January 6th, just like it was in January 2021. And on that date, we have to make sure we don't certify these electors. And they can't go the route that happened in 2026 that Mike Pence was on, or Mike Pence was asked to jump on, which was to unilaterally reject them because they already reformed the ECA. And we know recently Kamala said that she would abide by that and she wouldn't reject slates or whatever. She was just going to, handle it like Mike Pence did, which is what we would want. Thank you, Mike Pence, for setting that example. So they're going to do something different, though. It's not going to be rejecting slates of electors. It's going to be rejecting the actual candidate who won altogether as being an insurrectionist.
Yeah.
And I'm not entirely convinced this is their plan, but it does, looking back now at these discussions in 2022 and then seeing recent stuff, it makes me think, and knowing what the battlefield is right now with like 6 months to go, this seems a little bit stronger of a threat than it did 2 years ago.
And one more thing real quick before I pass to you, BB. This makes not only the transition integrity project war game scenarios that they did recently a little more like interesting, because a lot of that is like, what if there's a fascist that, comes to power? Like, how do we, what's he going to do? And then the war game documentary, like let me read this to you guys. The whole thing, if you guys remember, is with the grip of a thriller, war game posits active duty military breaking ranks to join an insurrection that soon spreads to other state capitals, yielding a chilling moment when it's unclear whether the president fully commands the armed forces. So it's like it's all about that January 6th date, and the transition integrity project stuff is justifying why they're going to do something on January 6th to prevent Trump, because that's the kind of presidency we get if an authoritarian takes office again. But anyway, go ahead.
And this is sort of the I think the term predictive programming gets a bit overused in the truth community. I think like any narrative that goes out there is predictive programming, where often they're just reactive narratives. This is absolutely the transition integrity project. Everything that you mentioned, John, is predictive programming. The reason for predictive programming is so that they can tell you when the images on TV look contentious in the wake of the election, or inauguration, I should say. If it looks like active military personnel in certain states are not complying with what CNN and the establishment tells the American people is the result of the election, then they've preceded this kind of narrative. When I look at kind of a swamp creature like Raskin deploying a narrative like that, I'll use the same framing I did with Trump and his truth post, which is that I don't think that those narratives coming out of the politicians like Raskin are for the American people. Nobody listens to Jamie Raskin, right? So who is he talking to? I also don't believe in that case he's talking to other swamp creatures necessarily, because when you talk about Blumenthal, these are informed deployments, right? When Blumenthal puts something like that out, it's an informed deployment that is based on his knowledge of the inner workings and contingency plans of the establishment. Same with Jamie Raskin, who was a part of that establishment. So who is that narrative deployment by Jamie Raskin for? It's for patriots, in my opinion. When he says civil war posture, he's threatening them, is the way I see these moves by the deep state. They're threatening Trump and saying, we know we can't beat you in an election, but are you actually going to make us go all the way here? Because we will, right? And they're saying, if you come for the White House, you have a civil war on your hands. And the other thing that it makes me think of is when you're talking about certifying electors, etc., it kind of reminds me in the combat sports world, you can have a title fight where somebody can miss weight. Like if I'm challenging for the belt and I miss weight the day before, the fight can still happen, but I am not eligible to be the champion. So you can have a situation where I win the fight, but I'm not the champion. And that's like that sort of technicality they seem to be going for with the insurrection thing. And it really makes me wonder, going all the way back to the video that starts this show every week when Trump's talking about returning power to the people, if you really play this out to its logical endgame, I try to envision how could we have a scenario where the deep state has this kind of posture and they're threatening patriots with civil war. How do you then get Trump into the White House without having a kinetic conflict like this? Do you get a situation where you have kind of a line of demarcation where you've got states that don't go to war or anything like that? They just simply do not recognize the authority of who the deep state tells us all is the president. You know, like, I think we talk so much about the binary. I'm not saying this is going to happen. It's just, we talk so much about the binary of who's going to be sworn in January. Well, we're in unprecedented times. If this is the deep state's war posture, and if we know that Trump and Patriots do not want kinetic conflict of any kind, could we be heading toward more of a soft war situation where enough of the country simply just knows that Donald Trump won the election and that the current regime is not handing over power, and you get Texas and you get Florida and you get on and on and on, just going, you can have whatever president that you tell us that you have, but actually Donald Trump is the president. It's just, there's many ways this could go, because the only other scenario I could see of them combating a situation like that is when we do get, you know, a full military mobilization installing Trump into office. And if they've got this much control over the narrative, those optics always look horrible if they're actually going to put forward this story that he's not eligible to be president.
Well, that's was going to be my next point. Is in 2020, had Trump done something like that, like actually mobilize the military, like prevent this stolen election from taking place and getting them involved or interdicting or whatever, like that draft executive order said, it would have looked like a coup or some sort of actual insurrection. It would have fulfilled all the narratives that the media was portraying him as, and a lot of people would have believed it. But this time around, we're still 3 months away from the election. We just had a minor market crash. I think things are going to get worse there. We have multiple ongoing World War IIIs sparking up. I mean, who knows how bad things are going to get to the point where it is obvious enough where everybody will know Trump won. And if that's the case, those optics, like, who gives a shit? Like, at that point, everybody's going to be begging for those optics. And that's why it's interesting that this war game scenario says that. It basically says what happens in a chilling moment when it's unclear whether the president, and in this case, they'd be talking about Biden, fully commands the armed forces. At that point, you're done, because they essentially are the enforcement arm of our government. Like, if they decide that Trump won and they saw proof that he won, and they go to, like, however they would respond to that or handle that, like, what is anybody else going to do about that, really?
No, I totally agree with you in terms of they could absolutely take. I'm thinking out loud just the same way we did in 2020, like you said, of do patriots have enough of the collective mind? You know, like, we talk about that they do, but we are in a bubble, even though I think we see things more clearly in this community than normies do. But even the people who think that the establishment is a bit of a clown show right now, you know, if you've got people in fatigues dragging politicians out of federal buildings and installing new ones, is that something that we're at that level where, even if that is the right thing to do, where they would allow? That's why I just leave open the possibility of, could there be, we talk about game theory all the time. Do they know exactly what direction they're going to be going in? Or is there a scenario where they really do look at the state of the collective mind and they're like, okay, I mean, if you're California and you guys want to say that this is your president, you can go for that. But this is something that I remember blowing my mind when I was a teenager, talking about, you know, something like marijuana laws, where there are scenarios where we've got federal felonies that states simply do not recognize as felonies. And I remember that the governor of Rhode Island at the time had threatened Obama and said, if you ever send DEA agents to Rhode Island to enforce this law, they will be met with state enforcement officers. So, like, on a much smaller scale, right? So if you have a situation where you steal an election from the American people, yes, but from the state of Texas, what's to stop Greg Abbott from just saying, yeah, actually, no, you're not the president. So we're not going to move forward as if you are, or as if this apparatus is in any way legitimate. It makes me think of all the things we talk about. Of, if these elections are illegitimate, then Congress is illegitimate. It means a huge swath of our government is illegitimate, as it currently is. So one scenario is military. Another scenario is simply trying to get the people on board of saying, it's your choice whether or not you basically accept the results.
Kyle, I'll give you a chance.
I think this is one of the arrows remaining in their quiver that they can use, and I don't think they'll be successful with it. And I don't really picture anything apocalyptic happening on January 6th. I think that Trump's going to win the election and he's going to be president come January 20th, 2025. And I think January 6th, 2025 is going to be wildly entertaining because a whole bunch of people who hate Trump are going to do everything they can to try and stop him, and it won't work. Yeah. So this may be one of the things they try and do on January 6th. They may try and convince Kamala to reject slates of electors. They may have their own fake elector scheme, and they're trying to give her ones where Biden or where she won and get her to certify those. I think there'll be riots and other things. I also think there'll be a lot of measures put out to try and prevent like anything like we saw in 2021, right? So like, are they going to lock down DC ahead of January 6th? Be pretty interesting. But if anything goes sideways, I don't picture a fallout with the states or anything more than if this heads towards the military getting involved in any way, it's only because there has been an incapacitation and we have to have overt continuity of government until January 20th, 2025, when Trump can be sworn back in. So, and I don't really think that's going to happen, although I still fancy the COG going overt scenario. I still like that scenario a lot, but I can't, in my head, I haven't been able to come up with a pathway that we get there that I like, because there's always something nasty that lands you in that kind of situation, right? And I don't want us to have to go through that. So,
they're nasty people.
But I think I think it's worth keeping this in mind, because I think it's one of the things we might see Democrats try to do on January 6th, and I don't think it's going to be successful.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Last topic that I for sure wanted to get to was this continuity thing, and it's pretty interesting. If you guys remember on Saturday, if anybody who watched that show, I think we got a rant or something about a Q drop. I don't remember which one. It was like 552 or something, and it has to do with there's something in there about who pays for the military, who specifically, why is that important, something. And so I was digging on air and I came across this contingency plan guidance for continuation of essential operations in the absence of available appropriations. So if the government doesn't reach, doesn't pass a bill on funding, there's a government shutdown, these are the things that the DOD, and each agency has a plan like this, but these are the things that the DOD is going to keep running even without money. And what stood out was the only time continuity is mentioned in here is in this first little box, and this is in there. Well, later that night, I was digging even further, and I found the 2015 version of the same thing, and it wasn't in that box. So sometime between, what's the exact date on this? Sometime between September 25th of 2015 and November of 2023, they added that in there. And I thought that was interesting. Just like, why would they do that? But I actually was able to narrow it down. I found a bunch more of these versions from multiple different years, and I figured out the exact time frame that this was added. So if we look at 2018, January 18 of 2018, it's not in here. Okay, it's not in there. But then if we look at August 26th of 2019, it is here. So sometime between January of 2018 and August of 2019, when they put this guidance out, they felt it was necessary to add activities necessary for continuity of government and continuity of operations. Now, Kyle, Burning Bright, do you guys remember what was going on leading up to August of 2019? We had the Mueller investigation winding down, the report coming out, and him going in front of Congress. We had Bill Barr tasking Durham officially to do a special counsel.
Yep.
And then in July of 2019, we had the impeachment situation, the phone call with Ukraine, which kicked off the impeachment.
Yep.
I wonder if right around that time, like when all this stuff was kicking off, they're like, okay, well, these guys are clearly going to try to pull some shit. We better start planning. Because we've always talked about like when specifically did they know that they were going to have to do this, or, you know, and for the longest time, especially when I first started, I was like, well, it was probably just like right after the election. I don't know. And then they started planning. They did the executive order December 7th. And then as time went on, it's like, okay, well, maybe it was further than that. And this is a notable change to the continuity contingency planning. Like it wasn't in there for years, decades. And all of a sudden they add it during Trump's admin, right around the time, sometime around the time frame that Russiagate winds down, impeachment cranks up, Durham cranks up. And I think the Durham stuff especially is connected to all this. Barr, devolution. I mean,
are there any EOs? Are there any Devo related EOs that were put out during this time frame?
Ooh, that's a good question. Let me check a few. September of 2018.
You have to. Yeah, I was just gonna say he can just go back in his memory. Like, why are you looking to click on things to find out?
Well, a couple of them I need help on. September of 2018 was the 13848. So that falls within there.
Okay.
We have 13818.
Okay.
I think that was 20. Let me double check. Oh, that was December of 2017. So I'm a little rusty. Give me a break. Yep. What was the other big one? This one. These ones might be.
My favorite one is that. Yeah, that's my favorite one. 818.
I like the transnational criminal organization. Oh, so this one definitely would be because he did this. Hold on. Because he did this right after the Mueller thing. Yep. March of 2019. 13863. The transnational criminal organizations. That's a notable one. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's a great
by
point.
By the way, I don't know. We probably won't do a whole topic on this tonight, but notable that Elon Musk specifically referenced RICO in relation to the lawsuit with Google, the antitrust lawsuit with Google, but then specifically his lawsuit against GARM.
Yeah, that we could talk about that a little bit here too, because that is a pretty killer
thing. But I just made me think of this, where these are the, besides devolution, the reason I like 818 is because it makes me think of the plan in much bigger picture than just even what's going on in the US. When you look at banks collapsing and massive tech companies suddenly losing lawsuits in 2024, etc.
Man, you got me fascinated now, Kyle.
Okay, I just thought of something else. I won't tell you yet, though.
Durham assumes aspects of Huber in September, shortly thereafter. Bear with us while we nerd out.
Are there jimmies rustling?
A little bit.
It's the sound of jimmies rustling. Sorry,
tell me what you're thinking of.
Reading documents.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the NDAA to see if it mentions funding any continuity of government programs. And I don't think it does as such, but this being in there makes me think that them making this change makes me think they knew Trump would lose, and they knew that they would enter some form of COG, and they would need to make sure that such things like the National Defense Authorization Act would include funding for COG, right? So if these are all related, we should be able to find something within the NDAA that denotes spending for something that's umbrella or its scope would cover COG.
And it could also just be like planning for the future, knowing you're going to have to implement this when you walk away, and you want to make sure that this is one of those accepted activities or whatever. Man, I mean, oh, and here too, talking about those generals, right? Like, so there's a letter at the beginning of this that talks about who decides. Like, you know, so the Secretary and I hope that Congress will quickly pass the appropriations bill for defense activities. However, prudent management requires that the Department of be prepared for the possibility of lapse in appropriations. But right here, the responsibility for determining which activities meet the criteria for being accepted from a shutdown resides with the secretaries of the military departments and the heads of the DoD components, including the combatant commanders.
Okay.
So that's interesting as well. If the combatant commanders, or at the time it was Esper, but if they're the ones who are like, yeah, we should put continuity of government stuff in there just in case. I mean, all this is speculation, guys. We don't know the conversations that took place.
It feels like the process by which this was seeded legally is a reversal. Well, not even a reversal. I mean, it's literally what the deep state has done forever, where they're changing legal codes and responses to precede templates for things that they plan to do in the future. And this is a reversal of it.
Have you guys ever heard of, I mean, that's a great point, Bernie Bright. Sorry. Major Force Program 11?
No.
It's a special operations budget category established in 1987 by Congress. It was created to provide dedicated funding for U.S. Special Operations Forces, ensuring sufficient resources for their duties and responsibilities. And you know what? Was Chris Miller, if we look at this, it's the Assistant Secretary of Defense for Spec Ops and Low Intensity Conflict. Was that him at this time? Or he would have been, I don't know if he...
I think he was there, dude.
He was there, but not during this. He was there in June of 2020 to August of 2020. So this was a year prior.
Special operations. Irregular warfare. I'm reading a different comptroller of defense. Well, it references it as an irregular warfare unit or program.
Mark E. Mitchell was there when, and Owen West.
Attempted to deter, disrupt, and defeat terrorist networks.
What are you talking about?
I'm reading a different thing on
the MFP?
Major Force Program 11, which is why it was designed, is what it's saying, to disrupt terrorist networks.
You should check Major Force Program 11, MFP 11, in the NDAA, Kyle, if you still have it open.
Yeah, I do. Hold on just a moment. Contingency is mentioned 36 times in here, and combatant is mentioned 96 times. I think it was. So I was scrolling through some of these.
And these exceptions. So this is interesting. The guidance does not identify every accepted activity, but rather provides overarching direction and general principles for making these determinations. It should be applied prudently in the context of a department at war, with decisions guaranteeing our continued robust support for those engaged in that war. So they're saying, like, this says like continuity of government and continuity of operations is one of those things that can be taking place by a country at war, right? I mean, obviously that makes sense, but interesting.
I was just reading about it being used in the withdrawal of Iraq planning. So that's a pretty literal and disclosed form of continuity of government, right? Where it's like you're drawing up plans for the withdrawal of American troops in a foreign theater. So that's a really easy literal framework or situation through which you would need this kind of a framework. But it's funny to think of the United States that way. in an irregular warfare situation rather than just in Iraq pulling troops out of an occupied territory.
That's another good point. Are you finding anything else,
No, not yet. I mean, I'm kind
John,
of
you should
learning
share
as
this
I'm
tweet
going.
while you're digging around. People in the chat were sending this.
Saying what?
Scavino just put out a tweet like 5 minutes ago. Should share my screen. Hearing Biden wants back in the race after finally taking some time to realize what his friends did to him leading up to his dropout letter posted on X on a Sunday afternoon. 12:06 a.m. We know Scavino watches Power Hour. It's like,
wait, pull that back up. Pull that back up.
Oh, sorry.
You know, just drop out. Interesting.
Gave them just enough rope to hang themselves and go all in with the media on Kamala.
It's an interesting phrasing. Like the way he is there something in Q drops about Sunday afternoon, like leading up to his dropout letter posted via X on a Sunday afternoon. Like it's just weird.
Not that I'm really seeing, but maybe we're gonna get the Wolf of Wall Street, our boy Blue. I'm not fucking leaving. The ultimate. That would be the ultimate Patriot control proof.
Checking the PEDS thing. When Trump made the change in the language where it said went from current to approximately. And I wonder if there's been any. I haven't checked on that in a while.
I am a little annoyed Scavino's just ripping our takes.
Pilot program on
Pasobic.
assuring critical infrastructure support for military contingencies. Note, deadline. Establishment of pilot program not later than 60 days after the date of the enactment of this act. Secretary of Defense shall establish a pilot program to be known as assuring critical infrastructure support for military contingencies. In general, a selecting military installation. Under paragraph 1, the Secretary of Defense shall give a priority to any military installation that the Secretary determines is a key component of not fewer than 2 contingency plans or operational plans, with further priority given to such plans in the area of responsibility in Indo-Pacific and European Command.
Can you send that link in the private chat, Kyle, by the way?
Yeah, this is really interesting, this pilot program for critical infrastructure. Okay.
Is that the 2018 one?
Yeah.
Sorry, we're nerding out.
No. This is the most recent. This is 118th Congress.
Okay.
This is from this is from the 118th Congress, and that was on page 37. Page 137, sorry.
Okay, I'm gonna go back and look at
I've just been searching through all the times it mentions contingency to see if there's anything that I could possibly draw back to what you pointed out, those documents. Or that pointed to something ongoing with contingency plans that were operational. And I did see some stuff with overseas contingency operations and funding for those, which made me think shadow war with Iran, which I think we're seeing a lot in the headlines recently.
Okay, I think I have something here.
There's an evaluation of the combatant commands happening right now, and there's supposed to be a report on it no later than October 1st of this year, and then annually thereafter.
Okay. Check this out. So this is the 2019 NDAA, right? So this was voted for at the end of 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And if I did a word search for continuity, it says it has continuity in here one single time, talking about continuity of government programs, communications and stuff. But then I looked at
it says entities outside the department. Interesting. That section is entities outside.
Public-private partnership. But then 2017's, I did the search, and I haven't even looked at what these are yet, but it has continuity in here 20 times. So this is voting on for the one for 2018. Continuity government programs, enhanced security control.
So continuity is only mentioned in this one 5 times.
And that's the most recent one.
Yeah.
Okay, well, this line right here, the first time it's mentioned, evaluation and enhanced security of supply chain for nuclear command, control, and communications and continuity of government programs. Do you remember the NSPMs that Trump had at the end of his term? Number 20... which one is it? I think is it right here. 34, designated the National Nuclear Risk Reduction Center. I'm pretty sure that one has to do with a similar thing, having to do with the nuclear command stuff, like securing the communication of it and everything, control.
Okay.
We got another public-private partnership thing.
Many such cases.
The undersecretary may enter into a contract with a private sector entity for specialized expertise to support the cadre. Is that how you say that? Cadre?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Such entity may be considered a covered government support contractor, is defined like whatever. In establishing the cadre, the undersecretary shall give preference in civilian employees rather than members of the armed forces to maintain continuity of the cadre. What are they? Fuck are they talking about? Intellectual property experts. Oh, okay, never mind. It's just IP shit. It's boring. All right, we probably don't need to dig on this anymore. No, we'll dig on this off air. Sorry we got distracted, guys. Got excited. As I continue digging.
We can't stop.
I can't. This is like...
Can't quit you documents.
Man, there's
tell you
something
guys
here.
This isn't what they're like in real life, but it is.
There's something here. Anyway, okay. I'll come back to that. Maybe we should do the rants or something to hang out with the audience a little bit.
I still remember meeting you in Arizona, and we were driving around. You were driving around. We were like going to dinner or something, and me and Mrs. Bright were in the back, and all of a sudden you're just like, "Hey, BB, do you remember Executive Order like whatever? What date did that come out in?" But just like a total non sequitur. So this is just normal.
It's my life, guys. Ooh, I wonder if NSPMs. Yeah, I'm never gonna get off this unless we
Scavino, all I ask, because since you're just ripping our takes, ripping the show, it's what you guys do. I get it. You know, you have the plausible deniability, all that stuff. You don't have any original takes, but just give us something like the Wolf of Wall Street scene. Something like it, like enough to know.
He's already done that.
That's what we're looking at.
Are you talking about the one where they celebrate, or I'm not leaving?
Yeah, I'm not fucking leaving. Like I don't want like a reenactment of that with Biden. I want him at the convention. I want him to roll up, mumble his way through Green Star style,
I could have swore. I mean, I saw. I know you had a meme on that. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, I can play it. I can play it. It's like 40 seconds long.
No, we don't need to play it. Okay, let's go through the rants. Unless there's anything else we want to hit on. Oh, it is kind of crazy that Rumble and Elon Musk are partnering to basically sue the shit out of advertisers who basically wouldn't advertise with them. It's huge antitrust shit too.
Yeah, and what I pull out of that is, besides all the legal ramifications, etc., narratively, both Musk and Rumble branded GARM in the advertising, collective cartel. They referred to it as basically organized crime cartel, and then Elon Musk put out a tweet talking about RICO. So, obviously it made national news anyway in the business world because you've got a major tech platform going after advertising, and this comes a day or two after Google loses an antitrust case, which is massive. By the way, if anybody wants to dig into this, on their own time, the big ramifications of the Google decision so far, they don't seem to be about Google. The company that a lot of sort of Business Insider people are talking about is very rattled right now is Apple, because of the ramifications of the Google antitrust case, because Apple is the king of vertical integration in an American company. So it's a business strategy where, they call it the walled garden. And their strategy is that you don't need anything else. All you need is Apple. But if this sets a precedent that if any link in that vertical chain was arrived at via non-competitive means, such as, well, we wanted Apple chargers, so we bought the company that makes the chargers, and then we bought this, and then we bought that, and then we bought this. So then your competitors had no actual ability to compete with you in the American market, even if they had wanted to or had the funding or whatever. So there's a lot of ramifications of it that go well beyond just Google got a loss.
Yeah, I saw people saying that this basically marks the end of the Google age of the internet.
Yeah, good.
But it's important to keep in mind that while this is a massive loss for Google, and it will definitely upset Apple, who, we're talking Apple was getting paid up to $20 billion a year.
Mm-hmm.
And to have Google as the default search in Safari. And the Apple, they did a study and there was also something that came out related to that. Google did a study to see how much revenue they would lose if they made a shittier version of their search engine. Instead of spending all the money they do to keep their search engine working as well as it does, what if they just slacked off and they realized that they wouldn't lose hardly any revenue because everybody is so tied in and they've choked out all competition that even if they reduce the quality of Google's search abilities, nobody would switch to an alternative because all the alternatives are so weak in comparison to Google. And so that was the kind of that study kind of showed the attitude and the awareness that Google had, that they had that kind of a hold on the market. But Google says they're appealing this decision, and we don't know what the remedy is. The judge hasn't arrived at his remedy. It's interesting here. This was a bench trial. And so the judge had to determine all the facts in the case and then also render his opinion on it. So he came out with this 280 plus page opinion. It's absolutely massive.
Have you read it?
And, no. But there's another case. So this is only the first Moab to hit Google.
Mm-hmm.
And when other companies have appealed in the past, think of Microsoft's appeal, portions of that appeal back from 2009, whenever that was, that Microsoft had that big loss in court, things in the original decision got overturned and Microsoft ended up winning on the appeal in some areas. So that could happen with Google here. But the next lawsuit that's going to hit them is another one of these massive antitrust suits from the DOJ, like this one was, and it has to do with the way Google handles advertising.
Yep.
And so DOJ is giving Google a 1-2 punch that is absolutely devastating to them. And it seems kind of weird because I thought DOJ was deep state and they were in bed with deep state companies like Google. But here they are doing billions of dollars of damage to Google, and the net result of it is going to be more competition in the search engine area. And well, actually, think of every area where Google dominates right now. They're going to suffer, and they're not going to dominate as much in the future. And there's going to be more competition in that area, whether it's ads or search or any analysis, whatever it is.
Yeah, and this will trickle down to like us and the awakening. Because I mean, and election stuff, like what they do is election interference as well. But your comment about the DOJ, I will say, just like everything else, I think there's like a good twin, evil twin in all these. Yeah. Like there's good people in the DOJ, there's bad people in the DOJ, just like everywhere. Yep. And this is going to be appealed, I'm sure. It might be years before we get the final Supreme Court ruling, because I'm assuming that's where it's going to end up. But yeah, it seems like it was the right ruling. And Chris Pavlovsky on Twitter is going ham. He's calling out advertisers that have said they wouldn't, advertise on Rumble or whatever. Elon is telling people to like join in on a massive lawsuit with companies all over the globe for this advertising stuff.
He's bankrolling too. Stuff that this community doesn't talk about much is the entertainment landscape. Elon Musk is bankrolling Gina Carano's lawsuit with Disney, which is going to trial, which they tried to avoid. Disney tried to get that trial tossed. Now, that may not seem that seismic, but think of the narrative impact in Normieville where an actress is going to kick Disney's ass in court, and that lawsuit is all about cancel culture. That's basically the cancel culture lawsuit. And if she wins, it's going to codify that the suppression of right-wing or centrist views is illegal and deserves remedy, especially in a business setting. John, if you want to share my screen, I just thought it'd be good to show people. Like, this was from the New York Times, but all this stuff, Disney, Google, it just makes me think of the plan. How big is the plan we're looking at? Just this paragraph here. Under the Trump admin, the Justice Department and Federal Trade Commission started investigating Amazon, Apple, Google, and Meta. Government has since sued all 4 companies, Google twice, and what it says is an effort to rein in the power and promote more competition. The companies have denied the claims. So this is a rundown on where all these cases stand after the Google decision. But when these lawsuits were announced under the Trump DOJ, there was a lot of dooming of, they're not going to do anything. Trump lost anyway, right? Well, here we go. Now it's back. Now the first domino has fallen. Like Kyle said, this is just the first case. And then you think, weird. Who brought all these cases against the 4 most powerful companies in the world? Oh, it was the Trump DOJ. And they seem to be being seen through.
Spot on, man.
Pretty much.
I wonder if like any of this stuff, where I'm thinking of it in terms of devolution, is like all these companies and what they've done, not just against Trump, but like with election interference. If there's foreign aspects involved there, with Elon Musk calling it out like directly about foreign companies, and how it ties back to some of these executive orders that Trump has written, and the transnational criminal organization one, EO 13848, and the foreign interference 13818, like all this stuff. How many of these assets from what these companies have done can be seized because of it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or frozen.
You do
whatever.
wonder, man. Like, and I know I mentioned Disney, but it's like you even wonder with something like that. It's like you can easily make an argument that Disney itself is a weapon as well. Just like we used to say this about Twitter and X. Well, we're like, people are putting their political opinions on Twitter. That's an information control weapon, right? Informational weapon in an info war. Well, what's the most powerful entertainment company in the world, if not a weapon of cultural subversion? So, again, that Carano case is bigger than a lot of people think. I saw somebody in chat say discovery in that case is what Disney is trying to avoid, and they can't avoid it. It's going to show all their internal conversations about what Disney actually is, which is a propaganda arm of BlackRock, Vanguard, and the rest of it.
Yeah, man.
Good news.
Anyway, I think that's all I got. I'm ready to read some rants. We got quite a few of them. So let's start doing that. Kathy is free. Leaves her handle at Kathy is free for $10. Thank you. Chris is, what is it? Chris Lannon? Chris Lannon? It really pisses me off that I only have $2, not even real freaking dollars. To BB, I want to talk to you about coming to speak at our Common Sense Fair in Maine.
All right.
Yeah,
I'll
I'll
go
give
on
you
my
his
Substack and
I'll give you his
leave
phone number right now, quick. Let me read it off.
give me my address and leave like a comment on my Substack, and I see all of those.
Dirk McGurkin became a monthly supporter, which is weird. I feel like he's done this a few times now.
Yeah, what are you
It's
doing,
like
Dirk?
unsubscribing and resubscribing, but thank you. Wide Awake Patriot 146, looking forward to a great show. Looking forward to the live in-person version in Deadwood. Wednesday DPH rocks. F1 is great, and Sharks bite. Wide Awake Patriot 146, again, does the VP pick fit into Patriots in control? That's the thing. There's been much debate about the level of control, and I don't know if we will ever find out exactly.
It was so bad. It was just such a bad pick that
it was so boring.
Yeah, it was boring.
So boring. But the one thing I will say is interesting is, I don't know, removing him from Minnesota. If they had a good governor in there, I mean, that state would be so good if they fix their elections. I mean, anywhere.
The Walz connection to Antifa BLM riots in 2020, and and we haven't seen Antifa BLM really doing much recently as far as rioting, but we know they were ticked off about Kamala being the nominee.
Yeah.
And then Walz is the VP. Maybe he's the pick partly to satisfy that crowd because he has some sort of connection to them.
Maybe we haven't seen them much because they're over in the UK right now, riding there.
Yeah, maybe that. Yeah.
True.
Let's see what's next. Dirk McGurkin, Walz, give me a friggin' break. If he isn't a gift-wrapped Devolution, Patriots are in control proof. I'm not sure I know what one looks like. Love it, Dirk. And again, Johnny Carson's corpse is begging to get out of the grave to do a monologue. Valseco 16, will Kamala be the candidate on November 5th? It's a great question.
Don't think so, but been wrong before.
Old Man T, nothing matters till 2020 is fixed and people understand they have been fooled. I certainly agree with that to a certain extent. Carrie Prejean says, leaves a Snopes article, Tampon Tim mugshot from 1995 for DUI and speeding 96 and a 55. There's that. There's not just the Antifa stuff, the BLM stuff. There's an abortion stuff that he's pulled. There's the stolen valor.
Yeah.
Yep, that's a big one.
My cousin tonight took, I know this sounds super obvious, but people in the military in particular, my cousin in the military texted me while I was on the show and was like, this motherfucker, and sent a tweet. And, he follows politics more than the average person, but he's not like a deep diver or anything like that. So it does show that narrative of the stolen valor thing is already going pretty mainstream because it's really egregious. It's a really egregious form of it. It's not like there's some wiggle room. It's like, no, you straight up are lying. You did not deploy. You fled the service in order to not deploy.
I'm pretty sure I saw somewhere there was some like the guy who had to replace him like was talking about how much of a douche he is pretty much.
Yeah, it was one of his own unit leader, whatever it was, like completely trashed him.
Yeah, you know what? I remember where I found it. So let me check this out quick. Do you have the rants pulled up? Maybe you can keep going.
World War. I don't know what this means. Q3. Crooked Joe Biden equals Bill Jefferson Clinton. KJB BJK. I don't know. Maybe. Wide Awake Patriot. This Dem ticket will awaken even more people. If they steal the election with this ticket, the biggest red pill ever. That's one thing I think about. I mean, it's just such a bad ticket. Is that what they're doing? Is that the plan? GG says Trump sent a calm with the tweet about Biden's coup, a message to the military. Is it time? Talked about that. World War, again, there is a secret special counsel investigation going on outside the eyes of DC, probably headed by Jeff Sessions. That's why they raided Trump's house. No leaks. This election cycle is all noise. Then he said, 1/5/2017 Obama meeting. Susan Rice, what did she write an email to herself and CC her assistant? Why did she wait until 1:20 to send? How do you legally introduce evidence?
Here we go.
Might be a Q person.
I found it. We won't watch this whole thing, but we can watch a little bit of it. Speed it up. This is the guy who went to Iraq in place of Tim Walz. This is what he said.
That's way far darker than a lot of people think. I mean, it is stolen valor. He's used the rank that he never achieved in order to advance his political career. He's done it for decades now, basically. I mean, maybe not decades, but damn close to it. I mean, he still says he's a retired command sergeant major to this day, and he's not. He uses his rank of others to make it look like he's a better person than he is. He still does it, even just however long ago.
Well, to that point,
okay, we don't need to watch all that, but you get the idea.
Yeah, I mean, it's like an open and shut case.
I think this is the kind of thing, which is, I think it's true for a lot of the stuff we find on these people. You have to get the media defending them in order for it to break through to the normie world and the normies to learn about it. Because like so much of the stuff that we know about Tim Walz, we either knew about it because of 2020, or we've come upon it like in the past week or been reminded of in the past week because we're in these info streams and we're following these accounts and we want to know. But we're
looking
a
for
very tiny percentage of the American populace who engages with news and information in that way. And so we're aware of this, and it's easy to forget that most Americans are not aware of any of the stuff we've been talking about with Walz. And the way you have to get to them is you have to get the media defending that first. And then the normie is like, wait a minute, why are they talking about Walz and stolen valor? What is this? And then they have to like kind of come at it from the opposite angle and look at the media defending that person, realize the defense of the person is bullshit and that the claim against that person is true. Right. And so like when I see that making it on Fox News, I'm like, okay, that's a good sign. Now it's got to get to CBS. It's got to get to NBC, CNN. Like I remember in 2004 with John Kerry and the Swift boat stuff. If I remember right, that's been a while, but if I remember right, it really made an impact once they were on CBS and the alphabet networks defending Kerry and having to find people to defend Kerry.
Yeah, I remember that.
But if they had never gotten on defense, I think that whole thing is only on Fox and nobody really pays that much attention to it. It just becomes a Fox claim and it doesn't reach normie sphere. But
yeah,
so that's what we need to have happen with this and with several other things. And sometimes I think that while we get tired of Trump occasionally using the same attacks or attacking on the same thing, I think it's easy to lose sight of what he's trying to do is put that target on defense so that they will address it within their sphere of audience.
Well, another aspect to that, like what you're saying about getting on these other networks, that's true. But also those other networks are as irrelevant as they've ever been. Like their viewership numbers are down more than they've ever been. But
That's
a perfect place for Trump to point this out is on Monday when he's doing an interview with Elon Musk, which we will be covering on Badlands, by the way. But don't be surprised if he calls it out there. Another interesting aspect of this is them highlighting, like picking this guy with stolen valor and this getting highlighted. It reminds people of like the actual respect you get for actually going to the military and serving, right? But how many of our politicians kind of have a stolen valor type story where they didn't actually serve? I think, is Blumenthal another one? Like there's multiple candidates or people in office like Buttigieg who went over there, and like this happens a lot.
Photo ops, yeah.
But also, it almost, like I was saying, in the psyche of people, like how inappropriate it is to steal the valor of stolen valor. It reminds people of like how am I trying to say this? Like the military, it's a prestigious thing to go over there, and it's like it instills that respect again for service. So if something happens around J6 with the military being involved. People have already been kind of, ceded the respect for the military. You know what I mean? And how inappropriate it is to steal the ballot.
These people do not have any respect for it. Which,
exactly.
Right.
Yeah, it's a good.
Right.
Yep. The seating goes both ways. I also think, to Kyle's point about the media baiting, that's why I talk about Trump baiting them a lot. Another kind of Normieville bait that the media took wholesale was the Olympics gender thing in boxing. There are 2 fucking guys boxing for the women's gold medal. Like, they've got XY chromosomes. There's one genetic condition that could describe a female having XY chromosomes. They were asked at a press conference if that genetic condition described these cases, and they said no comment. In other words, they're guys, right? And what happened, to Kyle's point, the first one was being attacked by right-wing media, so the left-wing media attacked the right-wing media, and then another guy started winning in the bracket on the opposite side of him, and 2 dudes are going to meet for the gold medal. It's like, and now my whole Twitter feed in the normie sports world that we're all defending this tranny, whatever the fuck it is, are silent because now there's 2 of them with XY chromosomes.
It's crazy.
So it's another.
Jay Gonzalez 1123 says, I will be watching on repeat. Have to get some sleep, work in the morning. Next Gart in Florida, I will be there. I appreciate all you guys do, John, especially you for bringing us all together. Mohab. Jay Gonzalez.
Maybe next year.
Yeah,
we'll be back in Florida at some point.
We certainly will. Well, we have to figure that out. Maybe in Deadwood we'll do a little brainstorming session with the crowd about, and the virtual ticket holder chat about where we should go next. Smoke agent.
You can't say where you live. That's what everybody does.
Yeah.
Like,
other than the
Saskatoon.
Joe is 100% Fredo and definitely went against the family. Then Shanny Girl NJ, New Jersey, became a monthly supporter. Thank you. Dirk McGurkin, imagine Biden on Mount Rushmore behind George Washington, sniffing his hair. Can someone meme that for me? That would be I think I saw a few memes like that. Camo Hat Guy says, what if Biden crashes the convention and names Shapiro as his new VP?
Oh, and then they attack Biden and the Jewish VP.
I like that.
I like it.
Or even better, Hillary. That'd be
God, is that Joe Biden's music?
The Joe Hillary ticket in opposition of Kamala Walz ticket.
All he's got to do is come with a trigger pressure and we'll have it locked up.
R.L. Skeeter says, if Biden reclaims his run for presidency, can he chose a different VP, i.e. Clinton or someone else? There you go. So I love that.
Good.
Faith and freedom. I guess we could answer that. I'm assuming he can. He can do whatever the hell he wants.
For sure. Yeah,
I don't know,
be
guys.
a new ticket. A new old ticket.
Yeah. Faith and freedom, comma blah, non blah. Exclusionary Twitter handle. Tim Walz signed a bill redefining the term sexual orientation to include pedophiles.
Yep, he's kind of an AMBLA guy. AMBLA guy, whatever that is.
World War KY3W. Trump has 7 cards up his sleeve. They cannot win 2024. Trump still has his 2016 card up his sleeve. He has 2020 card. Regardless of what happened, Trump won the battle in 2016. That's a pretty good point. We shall see. BS Girl 1950. Georgia election info today. First domino. Fun. What if other states bring their info forward? It all goes to SCOTUS. They have to counter or concur 2020 was stolen and he gets his term. No election fun.
Yeah, I saw some Georgia stuff going around.
I can put a video.
Was that legit? Do you think you put stock in this, or do you think it's not going to pan out like so much else hasn't?
I don't know. I don't know if there's any movement to like actually do anything, but I did see a video. This was a group of citizens. We'll just watch it. I mean, this is a long video. We're not going to watch this whole thing, but we'll watch some of it.
These slides are not as professional. They're just homemade, but they're more for me to refer to than necessarily.
Is that Garland Favorito?
Get pictures
not,
up, but
not
you're
the
welcome to do
podium,
that.
no.
Well, it's great to be here with our Georgia Patriots. Again, seems like we do this quite often. So what I'm about to speak to you about today is extremely, extremely important and extremely concerning. It
seems like it's not going to be
Okay, let me see if I can find.
Scintillating.
There's like a shorter clip right here.
Georgia owes President Donald J. Trump an apology. President Trump has been indicted by Fulton County. May I remind you that Fulton County has been found to be in violation of election law, not once for the hand audit, but twice for the machine count. And now we can prove that they had intentional human intervention, which is the predicate for election fraud. Georgia.
Who found this?
I think the
who determined this?
The Georgia Election Board.
Oh.
Yeah, because Georgia State Election Board just voted 3-2 to override the decision of Rhino Chairman John Fervier to authorize the reopening of the investigation into the 17,000 missing ballot images and over 3,000 duplicate votes counted in the 2020 election.
Okay, I remember this.
Based on the advice of counsel, I believe the Attorney General may be conflicted and should seek the advice of Conflicts Counsel to determine who should represent the State Election Board in investigating this matter. And I'm not sure who originated this story. I mean, it's not George. George.
I remember this 17,000 missing ballot thing. I remember that. And I remember it was, isn't this the same thing where they were going to have a hearing and everybody was hyping it up and then they changed it and then they canceled the hearing?
Yeah.
And it all got super hyped up and then it was a dud because they ended up canceling the hearing and they said, no, we're not certifying this report or whatever. We're not saying this. We're not moving forward with the investigation. Yeah, I think
there's meat on this bone. I mean, I don't think anytime a narrative is coming out about the 2020 election or elections in general being stolen, like that's a win. That's a good thing. This stuff getting spread around, but we'll have to see. Like I know Trump is not relying on the citizens of Georgia and their little movement here to get back in office, right? Yeah. Like that's why if there was something pre-planned to like cement his return, it's already like, in my opinion, done with. We just haven't seen it revealed. But anyway, good question. Another 179. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. 1027 JS got my virtual ticket. Looking forward to seeing the background shenanigans. Joe, you're in North Dakota. Why are you not coming down to South Dakota for the event?
Because it's not a real place. This is a rug pull.
You're all going to get there.
There's going to be nothing there.
It's going to be Wyoming or something. It doesn't exist. Gotcha. Nah, it's a real place. Dirk McGurkin. Hillary Clinton is the Darth Vader of the election narrative.
In current Star Wars, it fits. In modern day, 2024 Star Wars, yes.
Interesting. Who's Jabba the Hutt? Kamala? Jabba the Slut?
Pritzker, maybe?
Oh, that's a good one.
Over in Illinois, yeah.
Nikki0702, what if Biden goes to the DNC and blow the whistle on how they stole the 2020 election?
Yeah, our boy Blue just comes out. He's like, if you guys had taken me out, like that would be a Fredo move.
That'd be pretty funny.
I didn't even win the last time around.
Lots of evidence.
Or he takes the ticket back and he announces his VP. And by God, is that the Orange Man's music? Donald Trump as Joe Biden's vice presidential candidate against Kamala and Tim Walz.
Now you're jumping the shark.
And then Joe just defers.
But what if could Biden just like fire Kamala like right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, she could just still run for fake president.
That's fine, but
yeah, she'd still be the candidate though. She'd still be the candidate, but it would.
He should.
It would do damage.
Come on, Joe.
Yeah.
Do it.
That'd be funny.
I do wonder though, we were talking about Trump bait, if Trump is partly baiting, when I was looking at those headlines of them freaking out over Trump's truth there, is he baiting the media not just into defending Kamala, but to going on a new round of attacks on Joe?
Yeah,
of being like,
maybe.
These are all the reasons that we can't have Joe back on the ticket.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
It shall be interesting. World War Chi 3W, Kentucky 3W. Some of these names just make me think. The start 10-10-2000 normalized relations with the PRC. Bill Clinton, Iron Eagle, gave keys of USA to China. 11 months later, 9/11/2001, attack on World Trade Center. 3 months later, 12/11/01, China entered WTO.
Yeah, that's a rabbit hole. And you know who deposed all those motherfuckers? Is Xi Jinping.
Mm-hmm. Smoke agent. Oh, by the way, if you want a good geopolitical discussion, Ghost just interviewed Steve Quast today.
True.
It's on our channel. Check it out.
Heard it's good.
About halfway through, it's very good so far. So
we should be seeing Quast in Deadwood.
He'll be there. Him and Joni. Yeah. Smoke agent BB with his dyslexic gobnoblin.
Maybe you just don't know.
If you're trying to claim that you know better about knob goblins than I do, or goblin knobs, whatever, then yeah, I'll agree with you there. The Abe Theory 21. I got a new job and will be catching an hour or so on Wednesdays. You guys are the best. Blessings.
Thank you.
The will be was
congrats
written
on
that
the
way.
job.
Yes, congrats. Camel Hat Guy, John.
President? Are you vice president?
What?
I was asking what the job was. Maybe it's a vice president somewhere. They're just
He's going to be on
handing them
Biden's
out.
ticket.
Yeah.
Camel Hat Guy says John is Max Headroom.
Yeah,
okay.
earlier you kind of were.
What does that mean?
It's like back from early MTV days or something. It's like you've seen the character.
Blonde dude.
I'll show you.
Yeah, with the hair.
I'll show you.
Johnny Bravo looking.
What early was I like Frozen or something?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, thanks everybody for making fun of me. I always appreciate that.
You've seen this guy.
Mm,
Max Headroom, right there.
I don't think I have.
TV series from the 80s, Max Headroom.
They didn't have TVs in Dakota in the 80s yet.
I was born in the 90s,
Or is
remember?
it something that you play?
Of course. But I know how you get along. You're Irish.
Never heard of it. Never seen it. No.
So he does like this glitchy thing. It's like one of the.
Let's have a look at the jacket.
Okay, I get it. I see what you're saying,
I've
but
actually
yeah, I've
never
never
seen
heard
it
of it
in
before.
motion. I've just seen pictures of it. That's funny.
Anyway, PJW, if they pull this, would Vance still be eligible?
Pull what?
Pull the rug, probably 2020 election stuff. I don't know.
Oh.
If I had to guess, but
I just don't care about vice presidents very
no,
much.
yeah. And Trump doesn't either. He basically said they don't matter.
Like they don't. They're branding.
Yeah. The KAH, wondering where are John Kerry and John Podesta, senior officials and all. Good question. World War KY3W is on a roll tonight with all these rants. Thank you so much. We got more coming from Morpheus holding two hands out. One contains a blue pill, the other a red pill. Dialogue. What if I told you the 2020 election was rigged and the 118th Congress is illegitimate? Military only way. I like that visual. Dirk McGurkin, let the deep state have DC and their president. It's a shithole anyway. The rest of us, the rest of the U.S., the Republic, are being led by Donald Trump, and our nation's capital is in Mar-a-Lago, Florida. Kind of feels that way sometimes.
I'm in. We'll just do that.
Could we vote on where, though? Because I would like to throw Bismarck into the ring for new capital. Just saying. World War KY3W has 3 in a row here. 4 in a row here. Kyle, come on. No way they give up the White. Come on, Kyle. Come on. No way they give up the White House without a fight. The election will 1,000% be rigged for deep state. A loss for either party is a total loss. The deep state will bring down the entire system before TOP. And then for John's Savino timestamp 006 Q4939. This is not going away. Corruption at the highest levels of government, DOJ, FBI, MSDNC, political elite, protection struggles during bright sunny days. Q. And then sauce for Q Scavino link. I use Q alert, search 006. Q4936 is first post listed containing 006 and Twitter link. Learn the comms. Okay, and then he says, I meant 4939. Oops, I'm tired. Good excuse to give $5 more. Learn the comms, bro. How do you get that wrong? Rambo
There
and
is a Q
Fran.
show on the network, just in case you weren't aware.
There
World
is.
War.
It is still funny how people get mad at me. Like, you need to educate yourself, bro. Just read the drops. Just learn the comms.
Yep.
I'm just not gonna do it. I'm gonna stay ignorant. Rambo and Friends. Much love, guys. I'll have to watch back. Thanks, buddy. Nice to see you,
Grandpa
man.
just spoke to Quast as well.
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm gonna check that one out too. Man, Quas is 2 in 1 day. It's crazy. Yeah, check that one out too, guys. Human17, thank you for your insight and diligence, chaps. Keep it up.
It's a Brit, if that's the human I'm thinking of. And what's going on over there? Are you up to shenanigans over there?
I remember that handle. I remember that.
Oh wait, he's here now. He lives in Florida, I think.
Hope he's doing well.
Yeah.
Well, what's the one that we have? The Canadian in
My wife.
the one I can't remember. Never mind. She's gonna have to leave a rant. But we're never mind. Not your wife now. Kathy is free. Walz and his Iraq story is much like Brian Williams from NBC and his. People that do that go down fast. And then Salt Muncher ODA, Lava Lamp Bulb Fund. BB, get a hold of Zach for assistance with changing smoke detector batteries. You know how to change?
Nobody understands. I got some support about the smoke detector thing in the comments section. It was a really big controversy on Sunday night, John.
What kind of controversy? Like what happened? Just give me a
I
brief.
don't like
brief.
when I go to
BB
change.
has difficulty adulting.
I have anxiety
Noticed.
about smoke alarms because I hate the noise they make.
Yeah.
Not the little.
Not about
beep,
fire. Not about fire
No.
or smoke, though. Just
Me and fire are
the
fine with
noise.
each other. The super loud beeping alarm noise, which is fine if there's a fire. But what I'm upset about is that if I go to replace the battery on my smoke detector, it will trigger its alarm, and then all of the fire alarms in the whole house go off until I replace each battery. And I have like 9 smoke detectors.
Oh my god.
So once a year,
world problem.
just replace them all at the same time.
It's too
Good
loud,
to go.
man.
Once
you
a
heard of-
year, you hear the chirps, and then that's it.
Have you heard that earplugs?
I don't want to talk about this anymore. I got plenty of support.
I just don't want you to die in a fire, honestly. So
How do you want me to die, Kyle? Why don't you tell me that?
Maybe
Well,
you should just take all the batteries
mean-
out. Maybe that's the solution here. Take all the
No,
batteries
then they'll
out.
go off because they're hardwired in. They're both.
They're
They're
hardwired,
hardwired
in,
and
but
have
also need
batteries.
batteries.
Yeah.
they're connected to each other, apparently. Like the fire alarms. So if one goes off, they all go off. So
Just
when it changes
disconnect
the
them.
battery.
Cut the cords.
I'll
You don't
disconnect
need
direct.
fire alarms, bro.
I'm
You don't
gonna
need them.
disconnect all of them.
Whoa, whoa,
That's the-
whoa!
You don't
Let's,
need 'em.
no,
Hey, Kyle. Stay out of this.
Yeah.
He doesn't need them.
I don't think there's even been a fire ever.
Also, there's this new trend of like bonfires in the middle of living rooms. Did you guys try that?
I do have a fireplace too.
Do you? Do you actually use it?
Yeah, it's right outside this door.
Nice. I got an actual burning one here, but I don't know if I'll ever use it. Too risky. Don't start any fires.
Get
okay.
those. Get Duraflames. They're cool.
Maybe
They like don't spark or anything.
that would be cool. Yeah. But then you have to like
They just
clean
fully
it and pay to
disintegrate.
get the chimney cleaned and stuff. And
Yeah, I gotta do that.
no, you don't. Just cut the fire alarms and you're fine.
Cut the fire alarms. Keep burning stuff in there. Let all
Don't
the tar
clean
build
anything.
up. Yeah.
Totally fine, bro. Rambo and friends. Trump knew the 25th Amendment 100% came back to haunt Joe. It certainly did. It's a huge tell. Bigger than people think. How did Trump know almost 4 years ago? There's only one answer. That thing is like so wild to me. That comment from Trump that it'll 100%. It is no risk to me.
Yeah.
But will 100% come back to haunt Joe Biden.
Yeah. I mean,
Crazy. And it was Nancy Pelosi trying to do both. Nancy Pelosi tried to do it on Trump, but couldn't get Pence to do it. And then she used the 25th to leverage Biden out of there.
well, those are the comms that Trump gave out where it's like, you may disagree or people can have reasonable disagreement about what Patriot control means, but to suggest thinking there is Patriot control is stupid, is a silly opinion to hold when Trump has given that kind of, whether it's game theory or
I don't think it's I know there's some level of control. I think it's
no, I know
much
you. I'm
debate.
saying there are people that are like, no, the deep state's in full control. Like, it's to think that patriots don't have any influence over what's going on is doesn't make sense.
There's a good mix, and I bet there's a good number of Judas goats in there too, helping guide things along.
AOC.
Maybe. World War KY3W again. I'm counterinsurgent, but that's with a Q on X. Thanks, guys. I love y'all. And I have seen you on X, so thank you.
I think I've seen that name too.
Yeah. And that will be all of them. And I don't know if I got a good outro, unless I want to do the Biden thing again, but we've done that, I think, like 2 weeks in a row.
Scavino's signaling it, though.
The I will remember you thing?
No, we could do the I'm not leaving.
Yeah.
It's a short one.
Maybe. I don't know. Is there any other funny videos? Let's see if Green Star's done anything recently. I haven't heard from him in a little while.
Yeah.
Is he okay? Green Star, are you okay,
I
bud?
haven't had time to send him any clip requests.
Let me check. No, nothing.
He probably tried to change his fire alarms.
Probably forgot to change his fire alarms. And we'll do the Knob Goblin one or did we do that one last week? No, we did that on Liberty Den. We did it on Liberty Den. We'll do it. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Sounds good.
Live
you guys have a
stream
wonderful
for anybody who got the virtual tickets tomorrow, like 2:00, right?
2:15 Eastern. Drop my kids off at 1. I'm free for about 2 hours. So 2:15 Eastern. Sorry, I'm dropping them off at 2 Eastern. 2:15 Eastern to about 4 Eastern.
Yeah.
Get your virtual ticket, guys.
You will get an email like an hour before. So you're not going to get something right when you buy. You'll get an email with the link tomorrow.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Hit that like button. We'll see you next time we see you. Knob Goblin, everybody. Because that so
like Kamala.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we should call her that. The Knob Goblin.
One word. Pretty straightforward.
How often do you?
I've lost count.
A friend in need is a friend indeed.
Yeah, there we go. New name.
Yep.
I like it.
New name. The Knob Goblin, Kamala Harris. I was watching something, and Kamala came on. A 60 Minutes tease came on about interviewing Kamala. I think that was tonight. The whole joke is that she doesn't do anything except for knobs and globs.
I do. I do. Multiple times a day, quite often. And I take that responsibility quite seriously.
Me and Mrs. Wright were just laughing. We're like, oh, if only you knew.
You're about to find out.
That's what we're calling her now. She's been known to glob some knobs. So
The highest ranking Black Indian with Indian background
That is a reflection of joy because,
woman in American history to be vice president.
it comes in the morning.
Don't.
Don't.
As President Biden said,
Don't.
Do not.
as President Biden said, just don't.
Exactly. Do not.
If you don't like and share this video.
And you ain't black.
Yeah.